one for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, May 14th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 13 degrees. In Smiths Falls, 14. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. It appears to be one of those rare cases where procrastination pays off. A small study out of the UK finds older recipients of the Pfizer shot have a stronger immune response if their second dose is delayed. Here's City News reporter Jamie Pulfer.
It found that antibodies against COVID were 3.5 times higher in people who had their second Pfizer shot 3 months after their first. That's compared to those who had it at the 3-week interval, which is recommended by the drug maker. Now, the study involves 175 people over the age of 80. Research has already showed the AstraZeneca shot is more effective when the second dose is given 12 weeks after the first. And Canada has already been waiting between doses.
Looking at how far you can stretch that interval. And why that is important is you can cover more people.
The country's top doctor, Theresa Tam, talking about that 4-month wait between shots. It was something done out of necessity due to supply issues early on. And as we're talking second doses, Major General Danny Fortin, in charge of Canada's vaccine logistics, now says there will in fact be enough AstraZeneca vaccine for anyone who received a first dose to also get it as their second dose. I'm Jamie Pulfer.
Now, if you live in Perth and are 40 years of age or older, you can sign up now for a special clinic next Friday, a one-day clinic. Appointments do have to be made. Now, for information to book that appointment, go to ottawa.citynews.ca for the full story. U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says people who are fully vaccinated against COVID don't have to wear their mask outdoors or most indoor settings anymore, but is up to each individual state and municipality to set the rules. Canada is taking a more collective or community approach. The Deputy Chief Public Health Officer, Dr. Howard No, says it's not about what an individual should be able to do with 1 or 2 doses. City News Time 9:02, and now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
For Ottawa, the Valley, and Smiths Falls today, lots of sunshine, just some clouds for the afternoon for some. West wind to about 25 kilometers per hour. The high today, 23. Partly cloudy tonight near 9, and sun and cloud for the weekend. Just the chance or some scattered showers or thunderstorms for Saturday. Highs near 24 degrees for the weekend. For today, the high, 23.
And right now in Ottawa, 13 degrees. In Smiths Falls, it's 14. One person died in a single vehicle crash on Highway 7. It happened early this morning just before 6. OPP officers were called after a car left the road and struck a guardrail. Now, the driver, the only person in the vehicle at the time, pronounced dead on the scene. Westbound lanes of Highway 7 closed at Dwyer Hill until mid to late afternoon. A detour has been set up while collision investigators try to determine the cause. Police are asking for any witnesses to that crash on Highway 7 to contact them. 2 people died and a third taken to hospital with life-threatening injuries. This after a single vehicle crash on the 401. Now, police were called around 4:30 yesterday afternoon after a vehicle left the highway and struck a ditch. It happened between Boundary Road and McConnell in South Stormont. The OPP is looking for any witnesses who may have seen the crash, and if you have dash cam footage, that would help this investigation as well. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Separating headlines
from hearsay.
It's the Rob Snow Show on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
Friday. We made it. What a great looking weekend ahead. I hope you get to take advantage of it without running afoul of the law. Good morning. Welcome to the Rob Snow Show on City News. All the great for Friday fare is on the way. The legend, the one, the only, some say one too many, Lowell Green, back on the Rob Snow Show this morning, always with his hot take on the current events of the day. Bourque is back from Bourque Newswatch. We'll go over a week's worth of headlines, and our MPP panel will all be here. Queen's Park Week in Review should be a feisty one today, with Doug Ford accused this week of going to ground, going into hiding. Protect the king, protect the king. That was one of the news stories this week. You know, even though most people call it the Ford government, they're trying to protect the king. King Doug. Maybe we should call him King Doug from now on. Your most regalness. So when you protect the king, that means you see more cabinet ministers. You see more government officials like Dr. David Williams, the medical officer. And that means if there's bad news to deliver, you let them deliver it. And you protect the king. Interesting strategy. I don't know how effective it's going to be. It works for Trudeau. I don't know. For me, this is what I've been thinking about this week with the progressive conservatives here in Ontario. Gosh, they're passing up opportunities to toot their own horn and tell a good story. I mean, it's a non-COVID story, but a good story. I mean, first of all, the new civic campus of the Ottawa Hospital. Okay. Why was the great unveiling of that brand new hospital being made virtually at City Hall? At City Hall? What does City Hall have to do with anything? Why weren't the local Tory MPPs all over that announcement? You do a virtual sod turning if that's what it takes. It's a $2.8 billion hospital. It's the Ford government. I mean, most of the money is coming from the provincial government led by Premier Doug Ford. Where was everyone? I mean, look. For how long have local Liberals just been eating local Conservatives for lunch because of decisions made in the past about health care, okay? Trying to close the Malfour. You remember that? Save the Malfour, SOS Malfour, Giselle Lalonde? Trying to close the Riverside, trying to close Cheo Cardiac Unit. I mean, it was just election after election after election. Liberals hammering away at PCs here in Eastern Ontario. And yet here's the project. I mean, it's the mother of all healthcare projects, going to shape healthcare for the entire region for decades to come. There's not a PC MPP anywhere in sight. The brain goes numb. And then in Toronto, the Trudeau Liberals finally endorse, of all things, the Ford brothers' vision for subways. Cut a $12 billion check. And the Premier's MIA, subways. I mean, the Ford brothers, they went to war over that. Surface rail is lousy. Toronto needs subways. And they're laughed at by Liberals and mocked by Liberals and called all kinds of names by Liberals. And now the Trudeau Liberals, they're partners in the vision, and Doug Ford is nowhere. You take your licks, but you got to do a victory lap every now and then, too. Anyway, we'll get into all of it. Queen's Park Week in Review. We'll call it the Ottawa Senators Season in Review when we're joined by Steve Warne of the Sens Nation podcast with a look ahead to the off-season. And Dr. Vera Etches, Ottawa's Medical Officer of Health, is on our show this morning, coming up at 9:45. And you're always in the middle of it all. During the Rob Snow Show Talk Back Hour. And today it's the Friday Free-for-All. That's our favorite hour of the week around here because we pretty much take the hour off, okay? We don't come up with the topics. You come up with the topics. And, within reason, it's pretty much wide open. And you just never know where the conversation is going to go. We do the Talkback Hour every morning between 10 and 11 o'clock. It's 750-1310, 750-1310, 613-750-1310. You can drop me an email. The Rob Snow Show at ottawa.citynews.ca. Usually the conversation is about stories that have been in the news, but it's not a requirement or anything. It doesn't need to be earth-shattering. It could be a minor annoyance. It could be a petty grievance. Maybe you're the whistleblower of a full-blown scandal, whatever it is, okay? We're happy to roll with it all. Ask around. It's the hottest hour of talk radio in town, and there's no shortage of material to work with this week. Doug Ford did the expected yesterday. Extended the lockdown. Extending my envy of the Americans. Extending my envy of our friends in the United Kingdom. In the UK, come Monday, you'll be able to hug your mother and take her to dinner inside a dining room in a restaurant. Imagine my envy. Meantime, in the United States, the CDC is telling the Americans you can ditch your mask once you've been fully vaccinated. Ditch it, throw it out. You don't need it anymore. And more than 35% of the American population is fully vaccinated. Not this half-vaccinated stuff that everybody's so happy about in Canada. Fully vaccinated, 2 doses of a 2-dose vaccine. And what's the best Trudeau has to offer? 1 dose bummer of a summer. If you want to get back into that today, we can get back into that today, and we can get into the Doug Ford lockdown and the ban on all of the outdoor activities like golf. We can do that. I am told, little birdie told me, the golf courses on the Quebec side are doing a booming business. Booming. Check out the license plates in the parking lot. And meantime, King Doug worried about buddies having pops, going golfing and having a few pops. We should play that clip. Do you have that clip, David? Doug Ford, Mr. Premier, King Ford, why aren't you reopening the golf courses? Well, I'm worried about, my buddies is talking about having pops at the golf course. Roll tape on that, David.
I talk to my buddies. I know what happens. They pick up another buddy, 2 or 3. They go out, go golfing, and there's nothing wrong with golfing. The problem is the mobility. Then after golf, they go back. They have a few pops. That's the problem. So that's the issue. And what we need, we're just asking people. I understand. Believe me, the weather's nice. Everyone wants to get out. I'd love to.
He doesn't understand. He makes this announcement yesterday. It's well telegraphed, but honest to goodness, King Doug, you're not offering people a lot of hope, buddy. Not even the vaguest of outlines of a plan to get things moving and get this province opening up again. All the while, Jason Kenney is in the middle of a civil war with his own party, and if he doesn't get it together, he's going to be one and done, and the NDP's going to run Alberta again. Francois Legault in Quebec is bent on reigniting the old language wars, and most of Mr. Trudeau's family took money from the We Charity, a charity that was handed $35 million up front by the Trudeau government to run a government grant program, and somehow, amazingly, that's not a conflict of interest. Someone will explain that to me today on the Rob Snow Show on City News.
So the birth of absinthe was 2002, I think, 2003, and I was working at Urban Bistro, happily, where Allium is now. And then the space where Holland Cafe was came up. It's on the corner of Spencer and Holland. And I spoke to the landlord, and there's a lot of interest from a lot of other people, but he and I just, got along super well, and he put a lot of faith in me. So Carmen Turner is his name. He gave me the lease to the place and really pretty much gave me all the equipment in the place. So I was really lucky. I've been really lucky with landlords that way, actually, both my current landlord and Carmen Turner. Because if there hadn't been Carmen Turner, there wouldn't have been Absinthe. So we were there for a few years and just sort of outgrew the place. And then now we're here. It's obviously been tough, and it's been tough for everyone. I mean, that's been the big democratic sweep of, like, in restaurants and the hospitality and the arts that we were talking about earlier. It's like everybody's been impacted pretty much the same. From everybody that I talked to, we're down 80%. We're climbing out now. I think one of the saddest things is like everybody, we went down to 2 employees from 25, and we're now at 4, and we're bringing 2 new people on this week, so we'll be at 6. So it's little steps. So it's been tough. It's I've got the most expensive clubhouse ever here, because some days you come and you don't do any business, but you're here. But I'm grateful for what I do have. I think everybody's optimistic now, not necessarily just about the vaccine, but about like the vaccine, spraying, being able to be outside. I think you're going to see a lot of like pop-up things happen in parking lots and on sidewalks and like that, rather than being actually inside somebody's commerce. I think we'd like to take it outside. I know my staff would. My staff like the outdoors now. All of a sudden, all four of us, 6 soon. But we'll be doing some business in the patio in the parking lot, and we have a patio out front. And I think I hope other restaurants and stores will do the same. I hope that they take advantage of like the sidewalk and doing sort of, guerrilla marketing and stuff like that, and really shaking it up a bit. You can find us at Absinthe Cafe at 1208 Wellington Street West in Hintonburg, and you can find us online at absinthecafe.ca.
Is changing.
So keep up with Rob.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
He is the king of the Coupe de Carpe. Lowell Green, good morning. Welcome back. It's great to hear from you.
My pigeons are having a great time in this warm weather, believe me. There's all sorts of loving going on out there in the Coupe de Carpe. This is May 14th, am I right?
May 14th, yes it is, yeah.
Okay. Do you remember the significance of this date?
Of this date, May 14th? No, I don't know the significance of this date.
Exactly 5 months since we started vaccinating.
Okay, yes. December 14th, yes.
December 14th was the first vaccination administered in Canada. So here we are, Rob Snow, 5 full months later, and guess what? 60% of our population aren't even half vaccinated. We have the Prime Minister and others, and including the media, some sections of the media, kind of boasting about, the big rollout. Let me repeat, 5 full months since we started vaccinating, some 60% of our population still are not even half vaccinated. Now, when it comes to fully vaccinated, and I'm glad you mentioned this, the fact, in fact, Joe Biden said yesterday, is a very significant day, a very important day in American history. If you've been fully vaccinated, and almost 40%, it's now almost 40% of Americans are fully vaccinated, in other words, the 2 shots, you can throw away your masks. And as you know, the United States are good portions of it, pretty well wide open. If you're watching the Blue Jays games, you'll see the stadiums, in most cases, at least half full, in some cases full of screaming, excited spectators. Here in Canada, as you know, the Blue Jays are not even allowed into the country.
That's right, yeah.
But when we talk about fully vaccinated, because that's the key, half vaccinated is half vaccinated. Only 40% of us half vaccinated, but the fully vaccinated is disgraceful and dangerous. Only 3.4% of Canada's population is now fully vaccinated. So we have 60%.
In 5 months, yeah.
In 5 months.
Yeah.
So we have 60% or thereabouts that after 5 full months, 50% don't even have half vaccinated, and 96.6% of us are not fully vaccinated. So, when we're talking about the one-shot summer, I'm not even sure how they're going to do that. How even by summer we're all going to have one shot. And if only 40% of us have been able to get one shot in 5 months' time, but very clearly, we're not going to be fully vaccinated until probably well into next year, if even then, and unless something miraculous happens, and I sure don't see it. And as I say, you mentioned the UK this morning. The UK, as you know, about a week ago said that they were pandemic-free. The pandemic was over in the UK. The UK started out essentially the same as Canada. They had no domestic manufacturing of vaccines. They decided they had a government government there that used its brain, and so they almost immediately began domestic production of vaccines, and we all know the consequences. So we have countries like Israel, Chile, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, I could go on and on, the UK, the United States, essentially reopening. Well, what are we doing? Well, we're reclosing, it seems to me, or staying closed.
Well, we're extending lockdowns. Yeah, we're extending our lockdown.
But what really puzzles me is why so many people, including large segments of the media, seem to think that this is pretty good. In fact, I even heard on your newscast this morning, well, I guess, someone referring to, delivery problems of the... My goodness. I mean, let's tell the truth, folks. 60% of us haven't had one shot yet. Anyway, I have something else. I think one of the stories that's being ignored and should not be is the shutdown entirely of Greyhound bus lines. I don't think that a lot of, particularly city people, understand the significance, the importance of the Greyhound bus service, particularly in rural and small town Canada. Up until the pandemic, I must tell you that a good many members of my family used Greyhound. I've used Greyhound myself up until fairly recently to get, from wanted to go to Brantford sometimes, et cetera, Guelph. I have relatives go to Guelph, and they use the Greyhound. Yeah. So this, to me, this is a great loss. And one of the things that I find very disconcerting is, once again, it seems to me we've got a lie coming from the Trudeau cabinet. Okay. The federal transport minister, Omar, I can't pronounce his last name.
Yeah, Alghabra, yeah.
Is that how it is? Yeah. This is why I never became a play-by-play broadcaster. I can't pronounce those names.
All right.
But at any rate, the federal transport minister says, quote, throughout the pandemic, we have worked with businesses that were hard hit, especially those in the transportation sector. We have been there from the start to provide financial assistance.
Right.
That, at least when it comes to Greyhound, is an outrageous lie.
Yes.
Greyhound says they approached the federal government on more than one occasion, told them that they were in danger of having to close down. They needed some federal help. They were pointed out, you've been helping other segments. You've given the airlines, et cetera, all kinds of help, other business.
Yeah.
But the federal government totally ignored them.
Yeah, I'm just not, if I could just interrupt, I don't know how crazy I am. You say you will get a bailout Greyhound. The intercity bus, it has been in decline for years. I mean, the pandemic has kind of accelerated a lot of trends that were already in place. Whether that's remote work, working from home, these kinds of things, online shopping, whatever. I think the demise of intercity bus travel is probably another one, Lowell. Well, I mean, it's not heavily regulated the way it used to be. There's a lot more competition. There are people organizing small shuttle buses and these kinds of things. Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
Times are a-changing.
Sure they are, yeah.
One of the things that we have found out during this pandemic is that you do not need to live in a big city in order to work.
That's right, yeah.
And one of the problems we have in our big cities is so-called urban sprawl. People are screaming bloody murder about urban sprawl, terrible traffic problems in some of our major cities. So it seems to me that an intelligent government would do everything in its power to try and get more and more people to move outside the cities into smaller communities. And it seems to me that one of the ways to do that is to ensure somehow or other that there is a good transportation system.
Yeah.
So that's my argument.
But okay, and it's a compelling case that you're making, but what is the government's role in that? I mean, if the market demand is there, will it not be filled by private enterprise? For example, I see New Democrats are on social media saying we must have a government-run intercity bus service, and I don't think so. I think that that's the role of private enterprise. There's a reason Greyhound is out of business. It's because nobody's using it.
Yeah. What my response is that Greyhound came to the federal government You may be right. Maybe it's a dying industry. I don't know. The fact of the matter is Greyhound wanted to stay open. They said, listen, you're helping other segments of the transportation industry. We need a little bit of help here. You're helping other businesses. And the federal government not only refused to help, but now claims that they did. It's the lie that disturbs me. But I just think that once again, here we go. We've got a government that simply does not understand small town or rural Canada. Millions of people still live in smaller towns and in rural Canada, and they have a right. You know, we have. You don't think that OC Transpo is subsidized by the taxpayers?
Of course it is. Yeah.
Well, then why should not rural transportation be subsidized? Why should only city people have subsidized? Do rural people not count? Do they not pay taxes? Of course they do. If we're going to pour billions of dollars into OC Transpo and a new rail line, etc., why can't we pour a few $1 million into a system to serve rural and small town Canada?
Yeah, and there was money made available for Via as well. So
for Via as well. Good point.
Yeah.
Now on this other thing, and you raised this. Good for you, Rob. You're one of the few.
I'm on top of it. I'm on top.
On top of things, and good for you. You know, one of the last ones left, to be honest with you.
God help us all if that's the case.
This situation with the ethics commissioner.
Yeah.
Now, you can't blame the ethics, because on 2 occasions in the past, he did find Justin Trudeau guilty of ethics breaches.
Yeah.
Not that it mattered very much.
No.
In this case, he says, no, he did not. And he may be right. But let me say this. If what Trudeau did, and we all know what he did, I mean, his family got, close to $500,000, for God's sake?
Yeah.
And you know, he was huggy kissy with the Kleinbergers, et cetera, time and time again.
Yeah.
If that doesn't, and then gave them, $35 million and was ready to give them more.
Sure.
If that doesn't constitute a breach of ethics, then it's time that we change the rules.
You got to change the ethics law. That's allowed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things, and I'm watching a TV show last night, and the host has kept saying, well, this rule was put in place by the Conservatives. Yes, it was. But the point is that I don't think that when they put this rule into place, I don't think they thought that there would be a prime minister who would go to such great lengths to find the loopholes, all right? So very clearly, the law instituted by the Conservatives needs to be toughened up.
I mean, what would be interesting, yeah, I agree with you. What would be interesting in terms of the Ethics Act, has there ever been a more unethical prime minister than this one? I mean, the ethics commissioner must be sick and tired of seeing Justin Trudeau.
The whole thing, and not only that, and I thought that Charlie Angus, the NDP critic, I thought he said, listen, among other things, this shows the close relationship between the Kleinbergers, the Wheat Charity, etc., and the entire Trudeau government. I mean, there is Justin Morneau found guilty, thank God.
Bill, yeah.
But I mean, the whole thing, I mean, it was so bad that some of the Kleinbergers, in fact,
Kielburger, their name is Kielburger.
What am I saying?
Kleinberger.
Whatever the hell it is. I can never get names right. I told you that. That's why I don't do play-by-play of hockey. I was okay until the Russian
Do your pigeons actually come when they're called, or what?
On line 5.
Yeah,
I'm one of the few guys that's been screaming about this for months.
Yes.
We still have oil going through, but I don't think people understand the fact that we have placed ourselves as hostages to the United States.
Yes.
We depend entirely for our energy security, and by the way, not just Ontario, Quebec, but we're being told that if Line 5 is shut down, this will devastate the entire country. So we have left ourselves in a position where we are at the mercy of the United States, which already buys about 80% of all of the oil we produce, because we cannot get our oil to anybody else. So about 80% of all the oil we produce is bought by the United States at terrifically discounted prices and then resold to us, because we can't get oil to our own people in the East Coast at inflated prices. So already we are a hostage to the United States. And you know what? You wonder why we can't build pipelines here. There's so much propaganda. I suspect, and the evidence is there, that much of the propaganda is being financed by the major oil industries in the United States, who stand and do make billions and billions of dollars because they have a monopoly on our oil.
Okay. We got to go.
It's unbelievable that we have allowed this to continue. And even if somehow or other we skate through this, we are still in a position. We are at the mercy of a foreign government for our economic security, for God's sake.
Yep, good point. Thank you, Lowell Green. We'll talk to you next week.
Good morning, sir.
Bye-bye. That's the legendary Lowell Green. Bourque is back from Bourque Newswatch on the Rob Snow Show, right after the news on City News.
AG. Number one for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, May 14th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 15 degrees. In Smiths Falls, 17. And here's what's making news this hour. Minister of Long-Term Care and Universities due to make an announcement this morning. They're set to unveil a new strategy they say is going to bolster the number of nurses in Ontario. Mary Lee Fullerton and Ross Romano scheduled to make this announcement coming up in about a half an hour's time at 10 o'clock. One person died in a crash this morning on Highway 7. OPP called to that highway just before 6 o'clock. The only person in a vehicle pronounced dead at the scene of that crash, and it has closed Highway 7 at Dwyer Hill. Detours are in place likely until some point this afternoon. Provincial police asking for your help. They're trying to find a man wanted on a Canada-wide warrant. OPP say they're looking for Adam Olo, a 25-year-old man known to frequent the Ottawa area. Police say he's currently serving a sentence for pointing a firearm and other charges. Anyone with information has to contact provincial police, or you can get in touch with Crime Stoppers. Full description up on our website, ottawa.citynews.ca. I'm Andrew Boyle. City News time 9:33. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Firm.
Fair.
Fun.
The Rob Snow Show returns
On Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM.
and 1310 AM.
Bourque is back. Pierre Bourque, Bourque Newswatch. Morning.
Good morning, Rob. Good morning. Interesting to listen to you talk about the Greyhound bus line and the demise of intercity bus service. But on the other hand, and it may be reflective of this beautiful sunny day that we've got here in the capital, behold the rise of inter-island super yacht service.
Yes. Yes.
You know, you've got Jeff Bezos, the world's richest man. I mean, what do you do when you're the king of the hill? You're at the top.
You're the richest person in the world.
Yeah, and Amazon shows no signs of abating as far as being a success.
I hear it's doing very well. Yes, doing very well.
And AWS, we don't talk about AWS. We all think, all right, I'm going to go on to Amazon and order myself some books, or I'm going to order myself everything, because they pretty much offer everything. But AWS, the services in the cloud that they offer to big companies, is a massive growth opportunity that they are riding, and they're doing so well. It risks surpassing everything else Amazon does, and that's just one segment of what Amazon's all about. So go back to Jeff Bezos. He says, all right, look at, I've got more money than I can ever spend, but let me see if I can. So he decides to get himself $500 million in a yacht, a super yacht, of course, and those are all de rigueur these days for those billionaires that are out there. And the pandemic has been tough on most people, but not so for the super rich, and they've been minting billionaires, almost every day around the world. So super yachts are big.
Yep.
And of course, we've got Eugene Melnyk, Rob.
Yes, I read that story this morning. Yeah.
You'll remember that.
And what is your headline at Bourque Newswatch this morning about that?
Oh, my God. Well, I don't.
Gene the cruising machine.
Gene the cruising machine wants to get in on it. And so he, rather than buy one, look, it's expensive, and he's not Jeff Bezos, although I'm told he's a billionaire. We may not see that in the way the Ottawa Senators staff their on-ice people, but in terms of Melnyk himself, he says, I'm going to spend $500,000, $500,000 on a week cruising the Bahamas. And that turned bad. Apparently, there are lawsuits, and the story that we've got up on the site right now at Bourque.com shows $10 million lawsuit underway for 8 or 9 days on the high seas in the Bahamas, and how that went wrong during the holidays in the middle of the pandemic, Rob.
Eugene Melnyk involved in a lawsuit? Say it ain't so, Pierre.
Yeah. By the way, Lowell Green's a former super yacht owner.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
A long time before he became the largest pigeon farmer in West Carleton. He was a super yacht owner, and he plied the byways of the Thousand Islands, and he was a good cruiser. I remember that. He was
sure.
He was very good.
He's had a lot of interesting endeavors over the years.
Yes.
Yep. Pet shop operator, newspaper publisher, the whole travel agent, all kinds of things, right?
Yeah. In fact, I met Lowell. I've known on and off Lowell Green since I was a kid, and he'll know that. But I saw him one day in the Hill Times, which is Canada's parliamentary newspaper, and he says, "What are you doing here?" So I told him, well, they want me to write a column about the internet and government and politics, and I started to write a column in those early days of the internet about what was going on in that space, and that was my start in the media business.
We talked about that. Yeah. So I want to ask you. Let's move along to one of the big stories of the week. Obviously, it has been the big story for months, and will be probably in this country for months to come. The vaccination program, how it's going in Canada versus, and I don't think there's any reason why we shouldn't compare ourselves to the Americans, why we shouldn't compare ourselves to the UK. Our standard of living is every bit as good as the Americans or the Brits, and yet there they are. They're reopening. Their life is getting back to normal. In the UK, come Monday, 10,000 people can go to a sporting event, for example. You could have 10,000 fans in the stands, and what a contrast to what's happening here, where, for example, in Ontario, we just extended our lockdown. What do you think of the contrast?
Well, you call it the buddy system, right? The Doug Ford buddy system. You just don't want people mixing and mingling and guzzling pops, as he put it, which presumably are ice-cold Labatt's and Molson's and your favorite microbrews. But if you remember a year or so ago, Canada was sitting pretty compared to the UK and especially the United States being the world's basket case. But the two of them, to me, as I'm looking at it, the two of them had the ability to manufacture whatever vaccine would eventually be spit out of the pipeline of development. And so they grasped that, and they've been inoculating like mad. And that shows now. I've got some friends in the UK that can't wait to go and eat in the local pub this weekend because they're now allowed to do that. And that's a delight. And I was talking to somebody in Cleveland this week, Cleveland, Ohio, and they said the restaurants are full, nobody's wearing masks, and presumably everybody's vaccinated. And if you look at the curve of new infections, they continue to decrease in the UK and in the United States. And yes, in the last week or so, they're now coming down a bit in Canada. But where are the vaccines? I myself, Rob, I have the AstraZeneca. I've been vaccinated once, but that was a couple of months ago. I have no idea when I'll get the next one. I don't even know which one.
Which one it'll be. Yeah, you and I are in the same predicament there. So yeah.
Yeah, and look, I'm content. I was content to take AZ if they call me after you and I hang up today, and they say we can get you an AZ in 10 minutes. I'll be there. I'll take it. No problems, no qualms. It's the uncertainty. It's the mixed messaging. To me, it's a massive mismanagement of the vaccine rollout.
Okay. So now the ethics commissioner report is in on the We Charity affair. Is that the end of it? Trudeau skates. I mean, okay, Morneau broke the ethics law again. Okay. But who cares? He's not even around anymore. So is that the end of it? Is that the end of it now? The end of the story? We Charity?
So Trudeau appoints an ethics commissioner.
Yes.
And Trudeau has been found to have contravened whatever ethics laws exist twice.
Yep.
And this We Charity thing blows up a year ago, and an ongoing festering wound for that party. And Dion is his name, not Stéphane.
No, Mario.
But Mario Dion. And he gets this file, and he says, oh, my God, the last two times we found this guy had contravened, and what good was that? It did nothing. He just continued on, soldiered on his merry way. He's the prime minister, and oh, by the way, he appointed me. So let's see, can we find a fall guy? Oh, there's Bill Morneau, and Bill Morneau is stupid enough to lift his hand up and says, I'll take it. And sure enough, the facts were the facts, and that's been, elucidated in the ethics commissioner's reports. Bill Morneau is de facto fall guy for having breached the ethics. But his prime minister, our prime minister, having broken those rules twice already, to no ill effect to him. To none. So what's the point of this ethics commissioner? Might as well save the public treasury, the guy's cost, and his office's cost, because it has no lasting effect.
Okay. Bill 101 was the language bill, of course, in Quebec. The Lévesque-era bill, and it, there's evidence it led to an exodus of Anglos from Montreal, from Quebec, right? So now we have Legault, who again is getting back into the language wars again. They call it Bill 101 2.0. Defense of the French language again. He's wildly popular, though. A lot of premiers have seen their popularity tumble. Initially, a lot of them enjoyed a big boost in the polls. That's not the case now. It's basically Legault and Horgan are like the last two standing. How do you explain Legault's enduring popularity, Pierre?
Rob, there's a French word. It's entre gens.
Okay.
And, it means between people.
Right.
But what it means in French is he's got an ability to be extremely friendly to whoever he's engaged with.
Right.
And you feel that. You feel that warmth. Jack Layton to a degree had that as well,
sure.
And that's why he was so popular in Quebec. And Quebecers see that, and it's an appeal to them that this guy's nice. You want to go and have a beer. There's that expression. You just want to sit down, have a beer, and have a chat. And so he's very good at explaining and deflecting. And look, this is an issue that French Canadians in Quebec, Quebecois, if you will, have had. That's part of their mantra since day one. Has gone back decades, and it'll continue for decades. They're very protective of their culture. They're very protective of that language. Myself, I'm francophone. I've lived 2 years in East End, Montreal. I lived in Wakefield. I lived in the Outaouais. So I've lived on that side. I've understood and experienced it firsthand. I even ran for Parliament, as you remember, Rob, in East End, Montreal, at the height of Lucien Bouchard's popularity. All to say is that when Legault this week said, what we have in Quebec is a little bit of France in North America, and we have to preserve it, we have to protect it. Everybody grasps that there, and that's why this has gotten unanimous consent within the Quebec legislature. It'll be very interesting to see how the government of Canada reacts, as well as other pockets of francophone life whether it's in New Brunswick or here in Ontario or in Manitoba and elsewhere.
Okay. Very interesting. I hope you have a great weekend because the weather's supposed to be great. Enjoy it, okay?
Spectacular, Rob. You too.
Thank you. Pierre Bourque from Bourque Newswatch, Dr. Vera Etches, next on the Rob Snow Show here on City News.
The food cupboard started about 25 years ago. Again, it was a very small operation in the basement of a church. And we have been expanding to the point where we needed to have a new facility. So in discussion with the city of Ottawa and Jan Harder, the local representative here, we came to this location, which is about 2,000 square feet, located in the Walter Baker Center. We've been here for about 2 years, and it is much better. It gives us a much broader opportunity to serve our clients better. It's a fairly affluent community in Barrhaven, so you wouldn't think that people would really need to have a food bank or a food cupboard. But people sometimes have a temporary loss of their job, maybe new immigrants or refugees to the community. Maybe there's been an injury in the family or something like a pandemic that causes people to run short of food during their monthly requirements. So we offer any clients who come and live in our catchment area the opportunity to pick up an order of food every 3 or 4 weeks. The need varies from time to time. We have expanded our offering to include quite a few perishables, eggs, milk, cheese, yogurt, vegetables, fruit. But people I think know that we need cans of beans and stuff as well too. One thing that we're consistently short of sometimes is personal hygiene products. You go to the grocery store, you buy your toothpaste and you buy your deodorant and shampoo there. People don't automatically think that to donate those kinds of things to a food cupboard. So we end up buying quite a few of those things from time to time. The pandemic has affected us like it has everybody. Initially, we had to stop the grocery store food donations so that we didn't have any risk of contamination and to have a significant number of volunteer work to be done in our facility. We have a storefront, so it's like a mini grocery store where you take a cart and you go around and pick out the things that you want. That doesn't work during the pandemic to maintain social distancing and so on. So what we have now is our clients can come in one at a time, they make an appointment, they stand behind a line, and they direct our volunteer to, I'd like Kellogg's cornflakes rather than Harvest Crunch, to pick the food that they would like off the shelves according to the allocation, depending on the size of their family. And then they take it out, load it into their vehicle or whatever, bring back the cart, we disinfect everything, and prepare for the next client. We are very blessed here in Barrhaven. We're a totally volunteer organization. So if you give a dollar to us, it goes to purchasing food or to provide some service to our clients.
He's a pillar of community opinion.
The Rob Snow Show returns
On Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM
And 1310 AM.
Let's get an update on COVID-19 in Ottawa as we look forward to a very nice weekend. Dr. Etches is once again on the Rob Snow Show here on City News. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
Well, the big news is that the lockdown has been extended, the stay-at-home order extended for an extra 2 weeks. What is your reaction to that news?
I know this is hard news to hear, and I want to encourage people that the lockdown, the stay-at-home order is working. It's hard work to limit our close contacts and our activities, and it's certainly hard for businesses. It's putting us on the right path. With declining COVID levels, we will get there. We will be able to have more activities soon, and vaccine levels are growing at the same time. So I am still hopeful that we are going to get through the worst of this pandemic. And as Mr. Ford said, we're looking to a better summer.
Okay. So what do you think is going in our favor right now? What's working in our favor right now?
What I see right now is that people's efforts to limit their contacts are bringing the level of COVID in the wastewater down slowly. It's come down quickly from a very high point to a slower decline now. And the same with hospitalizations. We've seen the peak, hopefully, of the hospitalizations, and they're coming back down. And so this will enable our hospitals to get back to the procedures that they had put on hold. And we know that as we bring the levels lower, it's also going to allow us to get to a place where schools are open. I'm encouraged still that this is possible. As we get to the end of May, the stay-at-home order just ending there at the beginning of June, if we're on the same path of declining rates, I would expect to be having conversations with the province about schools opening. And we know as people are outdoors, there is less risk of transmission. We can also be looking at how you start up some activities in a cautious way, making sure people do appreciate and apply that knowledge that even outdoors, if you're in close contact with others, you need to wear a mask and be cautious.
Yeah, I want to dig in a little deeper into both of those issues. You mentioned earlier in the week during the city briefing that you had hoped schools could reopen. What's preventing them from opening for in-class learning right now?
Well, this is a decision, again, at the level of the province, and the Ministry of Education is taking input from many different stakeholders. And I know that what I look at here in Ottawa is the community rates of COVID-19, because that's what is going to pose a risk for introduction of COVID into the schools. So right now our rate is in the 70s per 100,000 people, 70 people testing positive on average per week. And we saw, when we opened schools in February, it was closer down around 40. So there's a bit more of a drop there that would give us comfort in the context of the variants of concern, where we also see a greater transmissibility, possible with those types of COVID. But we view schools as an essential service, and what we want to have open to support parents and families as soon as possible. This is an incredibly difficult time as parents are trying really to do the impossible of working and supervising schooling. So we remain hopeful that we can revisit that.
Okay. It's been suggested that there should be vaccination clinics in the schools. What do you think about that idea?
Well, the idea now that we can offer vaccine to people between 12 and 17 as early as the week of May 31st is very exciting. This is a group that needs social connection, and being able to rely on that protection of the vaccine is really wonderful to look forward to that. We are planning with school boards, with local healthcare providers for students, like the Kids Come First network with GEO. We are anticipating that there will be a few different ways people can be immunized as youth and as families. If people want to go as families, we're looking to use the large community clinics that we have, because they are very efficient and people can book. We are hearing on the provincial system, and that's what we anticipate will be possible when the time comes. And that will be a large channel. We also see that students may benefit from being able to go to their local school. It's not something that will be possible in every case, but just as we take a neighborhood-based approach for some other vaccines and the COVID vaccine, where people may be facing barriers, this is something under consideration where transportation or language needs to be considered, and it's easier for people to get to a school environment.
Okay. I don't want to drag you into the whole debate about golf courses again. We talked about that the last time you were on the program, but I would like to get your advice to people on what a safe outdoor activity would look like. What can people do outdoors? Because we're all going a bit crazy. Yeah.
Yes, it's very important to get outdoors. I do encourage people to choose activities where they can be out, enjoy the sun, the warmth. It's so encouraging to see the good weather coming back. What we're aiming for is people's activities should avoid bringing them into close contact with others who don't live with them, because then that can give the opportunity for COVID to be transmitted. If someone has an asymptomatic infection, you might not realize it. The risk outdoors is significantly reduced, but where there are people standing beside each other in line, or people socializing together before or after an event, those are places where people might come into close contact, such as the potential exposure. So choosing to use the trails, the individual sports, doing group sports with people within your own home, I do appreciate golf is not a high-risk activity when you keep your distance from others. So when we're allowed to do that again, just keep that in mind and choose to go with members of your household, or if you're going to be in close contact with people outside your household, wear a mask. These are ways we can address any remaining risks from activities, and we do need to be able to enjoy physical activity. And I think that's what we're all aiming for, is a summer where people have that opportunity, especially outdoors, to get together with others.
When it comes to organizing outdoor events, I know Toronto health officials were asked if they would approve things like event permits, for example. When an event organizer has to apply for a permit, it's pretty much a non-starter there. What do you think about here?
I think this is what we're anticipating, is as the level of vaccine protection grows, and we have good evidence that first dose is good protection for most people, then we'll be able to look at what are the types of activities that you can engage in when you're vaccinated with confidence. And we'll be starting small, like gatherings with people outside of your household. And I think it's fair to say we don't want to have 20,000 people in an indoor environment. Right. But we're working towards starting outdoors, starting small, and then growing that, keeping an eye on the COVID in the community, and remembering that not everyone is fully protected until they have 2 doses of the COVID vaccine, and that there are members of the community where we're going to need to continue to take precaution. So the details around when these steps will be taken will come out as we can see the difference that vaccines are making. And so far right now, we see with 1 dose, the mortality rate is dropping, and for people in long-term care homes who have had 2 doses, it's made a significant impact. So that's what we're looking for, is to extend that population coverage, and that will give us more options.
Okay. Have you had your first shot yet?
I have an appointment now,
okay.
So I was able to book on the provincial system as people over 40 became eligible.
Okay. There's a lot of confusion about AstraZeneca. 3 weeks ago, yesterday, I had my first shot of AstraZeneca. What's your advice to people in a circumstance like me? Because a lot of younger people under the age of 50 took advantage of the opportunity to get that vaccine. What are we?
Yes, I
now,
want to
Doctor?
encourage people that first of all, I really appreciate that people saw that the vaccine, the AstraZeneca vaccine, would protect against hospitalization and death, and would be a significant protection for themselves and a contribution to the level of immunity in the community. So that was a great thing to do. And what we know is that everyone will have a second dose available for them of a COVID vaccine. The people who had a first dose with AstraZeneca will likely have a choice, possibly with AstraZeneca at a shortened interval, if that's the recommendation the province is coming to. They're looking at all the options, or with a different COVID vaccine. There's more evidence coming out all the time about how interchangeable the COVID vaccines are, and so I know the province will make options available. It will be an informed choice for individuals, and that is something then we'll communicate at the local level.
Okay. Well, it's supposed to be a spectacular weekend, Doctor. I hope you get out and take advantage of it with your family. Thank you so much for the time today.
Thank you.
This is City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 1011 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, May 14th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 15 degrees. It's 17 in Smiths Falls. And here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. It seems unlikely we will see any major events or festivals this year in Ottawa. Health officials carefully watching the COVID-19 numbers during our one-shot summer. Toronto has already canceled major events through July and August. Our Jason White has reaction.
A large crowd of thousands of people in any sort of venue seems pretty much guaranteed to not be possible this summer.
We'll be starting with small, like gatherings with people outside of your household.
Ottawa's medical officer of health, Dr. Vera Etches, tells the Rob Snow Show not everyone is fully protected until they get both doses of the COVID-19 vaccine. But she says already first doses of vaccine are having an effect.
We see with one dose, the mortality rate is dropping, and for people in long-term care homes who have had 2 doses, it's made a significant impact.
While Toronto has said for sure its summer festivals and events are canceled, there's yet to be a similar edict from Ottawa City Hall. Jason White, City News.
City News time at 10:02. Just getting the new case numbers of COVID-19 in the province today. 2,362 new cases today. Of that number, 99 of them are in Ottawa. 18 are in the Eastern Ontario Health Unit. There are 2 more cases in Renfrew County, but Leeds, Grenville, Lanark, that health unit reporting no new cases today, at least from the province. Each jurisdiction has their own figures that will be released a little bit later on this morning. City News time at 10:03. Now your forecast with meteorologist Gilles Taylor.
For Ottawa, the Valley, and Smiths Falls today, lots of sunshine, just some clouds for the afternoon for some. West wind to about 25 kilometers per hour. The high today, 23. Partly cloudy tonight near 9, and sun and cloud for the weekend. Just the chance or some scattered showers or thunderstorms for Saturday. Highs near 24 degrees for the weekend. For today, the high, 23.
And right now, 15 degrees in Ottawa. It's 17 degrees in Smiths Falls. Provincial police asking for your help as they try to find a man wanted on a Canada-wide warrant. The OPP looking for Adam Olo. He's a 25-year-old known to frequent the Ottawa area. Police say he's currently serving a sentence for multiple crimes, including pointing a firearm. Anyone with information is asked to contact the OPP, or you can do it anonymously through Crime Stoppers. Police are asking for witnesses as well to come forward who may have seen a shooting early this morning in the South Keys area. Frontline officers responded to a call just on the other side of Hunt Club from South Keys regarding a shooting happened about 1 o'clock. A victim was later found around Bank and Queensdale. The 19-year-old suffering a gunshot wound. Police say his injuries, though, are not life-threatening. Police in Gatineau have wrapped up a weeks-long investigation into a drug trafficking ring. 5 people have been arrested. Officers carried out a pair of searches in apartments not only in the east end of Gatineau but also in Val-de-Mont. Among the items seized, a large amount of GHB, almost 3,000 grams of cannabis, and over 10,000 tablets of speed. They also seized some cash and drug trafficking equipment. I'm Andrew Boyle. For News Anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
And it's the Friday free-for-all. So just about anything goes, all right? We love the Friday free-for-all. Because, for David and me, it means it's quitting time in 2 hours. But also it means you come up with the topics and we do our best to roll with it. It has been a very busy week in the news business. Comment on any of it, all of it, none of it. We had the pausing of the AstraZeneca shots, creating all kinds of uncertainty about what's going to happen next for people like me who've had 1 dose of that particular vaccine. Are we going to end up mixing and matching? Is that the path that we're headed down? As expected, the Ford government extended the Ontario lockdown. the stay-at-home order, the state of emergency. For an extra 2 weeks, no taste of freedom for you for another 2 weeks. Early June now. So, happy May 2-4 long weekend, everyone. Don't go golfing. Don't even think about crossing the border to go golfing. Okay, and having some pops. Too dangerous, according to Ontario Premier Doug Ford. David's got the clip for us. Roll tape. David.
And I know, I talk to my buddies. I know what happens. They pick up another buddy, 2 or 3. They go out, go golfing, and there's nothing wrong with golfing. The problem is the mobility. Then after golf, they go back. They have a few pops. That's the problem. So that's the issue. And what we need, we're just asking people. I understand. Believe me, the weather's nice. Everyone wants to get out. I'd love to get out golfing.
Pops. Don't be having any pops.
Then after golf, they go back. They have a few pops.
All sorts of pipeline news this week. The gas shortages, the panic buying in the United States because of the hack of the Colonial Pipeline. 75 bitcoins. $5 million. They paid the ransom. And yet, not even $7 a gallon and dry gas stations was enough to dissuade the governor of Michigan on the need for the Line 5 pipeline. The whole issue, though, is far from settled. It's far from over. Court date next week about that. And the prospect of that pipeline being shut down still very much in the cards. To me, the big takeaway from both of those stories, for me anyway, is that as much as we would like to think the green nirvana is just around the corner, okay? It's not. It's not. Honestly, we're not even close to being able to live in a world without oil. I think it's a big wake-up call, but the dogma is strong with some. And rockets raining down on Israel from Gaza again, and Israel moving back into Gaza. Israel left Gaza more than 15 years ago. Its reward was a government run by Hamas. And just as an aside on the situation that's been unfolding on our televisions, we watch it in what's happening in Israel. So much of the American political talk has been about Liz Cheney, like the third place leadership in the House for the Republicans because of her criticism of Trump. Why is this even a story? That is a sideshow. Look, the main act is, where is Joe Biden on the world stage? Where is the American president? He's been in the position now 5 months. The Middle East now on the cusp of a major war. Russia massing troops near Ukraine. China daily bullying Taiwan. Look, I was no Trump fan, okay? You know that. You gave me grief for it. I can take it. I thought Joe Biden was supposed to bring American leadership back to the world stage. Well, the world is waiting. And how's that for a week in news? And one of the other stories that was in the news this week, one line available there for you, 750-1310, 750-1310. This broke yesterday, the CBC lawsuit against the Conservative Party of Canada. A judge laughed it out of court. Okay, so, hey, a rare win for the Conservatives, a blow to the CBC. And you know what, for the CBC, for the executives there, it looks good on you. It's an entirely self-inflicted wound, and I feel sorry for the rank-and-file journalism staff at the CBC for what the brass put them through because of this. I really do. And I think about the fallout of the last election campaign and how the public broadcasters won very few friends. And from my perch for rank-and-file staff at the CBC, it's not your fault. And it's not just the conclusion of this lawsuit that was doomed from the start. There was also the Putin, okay? Look, rightly or wrongly, a lot of people think the CBC has a hate-on for conservatives, right? I'll let you be the judge of that. You're the news consumer. But the perception for a lot of people on the right side of things is that the CBC hates conservatives and takes it easy on Justin Trudeau and the Liberals. Fair enough? Launching a lawsuit against the Conservative Party of Canada, a baseless lawsuit that just about every expert in copyright law knew was doomed from the start, did not do the CBC an ounce of good at dispelling the perception that it's pro-liberal. It just reinforced it. And we're in a time now when a lot of people, a growing number of people, don't trust the media at all. They think news organizations aren't interested anymore in reporting facts, but rather are more interested in pushing agendas. Survey after survey about trust in the media bears that out. And yet these dummies at the CBC in the corner offices threw their rank and file staff under the bus with this lawsuit that the CBC was never going to win. The first judge that heard it threw it out. It was always on shaky ground because of what's known as fair dealing with copyright. That's the big exception in Canada's copyright law, fair dealing. You can use copyrighted material to a certain extent. You have to make a case for it. You can use it for educational purposes. You can use it for academic research. You can use it for satire, parody and criticism, news reporting and review. And the courts, this issue, fair dealing, it's been in front of the courts dozens of times. There's all kinds of precedent about this, fair dealing. And it's always given the concept of fair dealing a very wide berth. And the CBC lawyers, you can bet, well paid, they knew they didn't have a hope in heck of winning that lawsuit against the Conservative Party, yet they pursued this action anyway, and in so doing left the whole Mother Corps forever now open to the allegation that it has a bias against the Conservatives. Way to go, you idiots. How many times have you heard, you can't trust the CBC? It wouldn't even be able to keep the lights on without government money, and now you're suing the Conservative Party. I'm not even one of those people who wants to defund the CBC. But the leadership at that place, you can't help but shake your head what's going through their minds. And the Prime Minister didn't do them any favors during the last election campaign when he bought the CBC reporter a Putin. And the reporter had the look on his face like, oh, thanks a lot. I'm never going to hear the end of this now. And he didn't. He still doesn't. He still gets heck on that. David Cochrane. Right? Oh, David Cochrane. Oh, yeah, Trudeau bought you a Putin. Anyway, another blow to the credibility of the public broadcaster, a rare win for the Conservatives. For CBC, entirely self-inflicted. And the bright lights in the big offices on Front Street in Toronto, you have only yourselves to blame. Roger in Drummond. Good morning. You're up first. Talk Back Hour Friday free for all.
Good morning, Rob.
Hey there.
I woke up this morning and felt real good there. I'm so glad that Justin Trudeau got exonerated, you know. I mean,
yeah.
How could he even have any conflict of interest in something like that, you know? I think everybody just had it dead wrong. And I think it bodes well for majority government there in September when he calls for the election. And just going to make a few observations and some of his accolades and how his accomplishments, you know. Well, we'll start out with, you know, the Navy's going to get some new ships there by somewhere around 2035 at about 3 times the cost.
Yep.
We have a $750 million visitor center at Parliament being constructed now, I believe, and there's another wonderful accomplishment.
Yes.
He's the only prime minister in our history that can double the debt in 5.5 years. There's another accolade. We have a thriving democracy. We have energy security, Rob.
Yes.
I was thinking about maybe going on Team Trudeau there and maybe joining his campaign team there. And I got a real good slogan for
What's
him.
What's that?
Well, it's called Freedom 95.
Freedom 95.
If you live to 95, you get to keep 5% of your income. You know, it bodes well for the future of Canada, and it doesn't get any better, Rob.
Don't forget 1 dose summer, 2 dose fall, Rob.
1 dose summer.
Well, I think you've got some ammunition on that, too, with that study they did in the UK with 175 people.
175 people,
yeah. They're better off you are.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
I think there's going to be an election this September, and there's the ammunition right there. You couldn't ask for a better guy to run the helm. I'm just looking forward to a real bright future.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you. Good call. This is the Friday Free-for-All Talk Back Hour. Rob Snow Show, 750-1310. This is City News.
It started out with a small outdoor booth in what was called Artist Alley, which is actually the area just outside our store on William Street, where for a couple of years we sold our jewelry directly on the street. And then we slowly evolved to having an indoor location in this building, 55 Borrowed Market Square. We then moved to another location in Place de Ville, and then moved back down here on Dalhousie Street at Irrigere in the 90s, and then back into this building again in 2000 as a collection. I do a collection of jewelry called Cirque that's mainly beaded work with a combination of semi-precious and vintage beads. And then she does a hat collection called Fanfreluche that's all cut and sewn hats in a variety of fabrics and for all of the seasons of the year. We've curated and sourced the artisans that we represent in a lot of different ways over the years since it's been, since 1985. Some people come to us since we're known, and other artisans that we represent might recommend that they come and see us. Some people we find at craft shows, or we see their work, somebody wears it in, and we go and track it down and bring it. And then some people, interestingly, are with us in one medium, and then sometimes they evolve to another. They're all Canadian and mainly local. With the roughly 50 people that we have, I'd say more than half of those are Ottawa-Gatineau, and then the rest are from other cities in Canada, Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, etc. If you can afford it, go to a small business and spend some money. It's lovely when you come in and, give me a pep talk and tell me how much you love this place and you've been coming here for years. But if you can afford it, please spend some money too, because all the pep talks in the world are not going to pay my rent, which is still full rent even when we're closed. Then secondly, if you can't afford to spend money, follow the businesses that you want to support on social media. Go to their Instagram, go to their Facebook, follow their Twitter, and then retweet, share their Facebook page, like and comment. Because if you can't afford to, as many of us can't right now, to do extra expenditures, doing all of those little things like that will raise the visibility of those small businesses, and hopefully for them result in some online or curbside or other business for them.
Time to talk back
on the Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
Friday Free-for-All Talk Back Hour. Frank in the South End. Good morning, Frank.
Hi, Rob. Rob, earlier this week you had Bob Chiarelli on the radio about the possibility of a mayor's race.
Yep.
I just want to make sure to get it right. The current mayor has not decided if he's running, is that right?
Hasn't declared one way or the other, yeah.
Okay, and Mr. Chiarelli didn't declare it either, but I guess we all remember the leadership he did in the ice storm. But my
He was pretty good during the ice storm, Bob was.
Yeah, I remember that. But my question to you, Rob, is what happens if either one of them run?
Well, Bob told me that if Jim runs, he's still running. He said I would run even if Jim was running. That Jim's never been put to the test, is what he said.
Oh, okay, but I didn't know he confirmed that he was going to run. I was under the impression he was still deciding.
He said on my radio show, I'm seriously considering it, and it doesn't matter if Jim Watson runs or not. Even if Jim runs, I would run against him.
Okay, yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. If Mr. Chiarelli doesn't run and the mayor doesn't run, then that opens it up to who? I mean, the only one I can think of that was pretty good was Tom Doerr, but the late Tom Doerr. But who else would be a candidate? If
You mean Paul Dewar? Paul Dewar, you mean?
Paul Dewar, yeah. And then the other fellow in the East End there that passed away, Belanger.
Maril Belanger, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, who else would there be?
Well, some of the names that are out there. Diane Deans is said to be considering running for mayor. Councillor Deans.
Okay.
All right. Yasser Naqvi. These are names that are rumored to be mulling it over. Yasser Naqvi used to be the Liberal MPP for Ottawa Centre.
But neither one of them were mayors at the time. Then they're all
they've never been mayors. No.
Yeah, they're moving up. Then I guess you could say.
Well, I don't know. Is being mayor of Ottawa move up from being an MPP? I guess. You're the boss, I suppose. But
yeah, okay.
Lisa MacLeod, her name has come up as a possible contender.
So she quit what she's doing now. Then.
Quit what she's doing now to run for mayor? Maybe she doesn't even quit. Maybe she doesn't even quit. Maybe you run for mayor. Well, nothing says you have to quit. Right?
Well, when the Mayor Watson was the mayor of the small city of Ottawa, didn't he get a federal position in tourism?
I can't remember now what he did after his first stint as mayor of the amalgamated city, if he went to provincial politics and then he went to the Tourism Commission, I believe, after that.
Then he was on TV for a while, too.
He was on TV for a little while, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, okay.
Yeah.
All right, Rob, well, have a good weekend.
Okay.
I'm off.
Is there somebody you want? Is there somebody you like?
Well, I'm heading over to the pop store to get some pop for the weekend.
Okay. All right. Just stay off the links. Okay?
Yeah.
All right, Frank.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Frank. Bye-bye.
Have a few pops.
Walter, Ottawa. Good morning, Walter. Hello, Walter. Goodbye, Walter. Call me back when you wake up, okay? Vince in Nepean, a wonderful place to be in. Good morning,
Hi,
Vince.
Rob.
Yes, sir.
I got 3 things to discuss.
3 things. All right.
Okay, Obama.
Okay. What about him?
Biden, Obama. Is there a difference?
I don't know. What's the difference?
The policy's the same.
Yeah, they're great at drawing red lines, I guess.
Yeah, we know about those lines in the sand with Obama, where they went.
Sure, yeah.
And his international...
Worked well in Syria. It certainly worked well in Syria.
Obama's international record was not stellar.
No, it was not good at all.
Biden's really just going through with the same Obama policies. And what I noticed so far, beginning with the Keystone XL, not responding to Russia, not responding to China, and Syria, well, that's all forgotten for, that administration.
Right.
Getting back to Mr. Trudeau and the Putin, well, really, I have a humorous side to this.
Okay.
If I don't like somebody, I'm going to buy him a Putin.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
Cardio, And the other thing about Mr. Ford,
yes,
I like the idea that he extended the lockdown. I really do.
Okay.
But I don't like his explanation regarding the golf.
Okay.
I mean, he should have let it go at that. I mean, there was no need to expand on it.
Right. Well, plus, does that really make any sense? Well, my buddies, they go pick up, their buddies, and and then they go back and they have some pops. I don't know if that, is that really what's going on?
No. And something, there's a way to control that. Just suspend $1 a beer.
Okay. All right, Vince. Yeah. Play what he said again. This is why there's no golf. Ontario, golf is banned. The only place now, David, they're saying it's the only place in the world where you can't play golf. Ontario. The only place in the world where you can't play golf is Ontario. Roll tape on that.
I know, I talk to my buddies. I know what happens. They pick up another buddy, 2 or 3.
Pick up another buddy.
Go golfing. And there's nothing wrong with golfing. The problem is the mobility. Then after golf, they go back, they have a few pops. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's the problem. Boy, the golfers, he's losing a lot of people who would, that part of Ford Nation, part of the quote-unquote base, Golfers loved Mike Harris. They loved Mike Harris was a golf pro. Mike Harris let people drink beer on the golf course. You didn't used to be allowed to drink beer on the golf course before Mike Harris came to power. Walter, Orleans. Walter.
Good morning, Rob.
Walter Robinson.
Yeah, I figured I'd call in for you.
Yeah, good to hear from you.
I wanted to chat about Dr. Etches' interview, but very quickly, since I couldn't resist, a Shirelli-Watson showdown, throw Diane Deans in the mix.
Yeah.
I'll tell you two things. One, and I was never a big fan of Bob, as Bob knows. The Ice Storm, he did something really, really well. He was a voice of calm and a voice of direction. Then he got out of the way and let Merv Beckstead and others kind of run the show, because there were people in Ottawa, myself out in Orleans. I lost my cable for half an hour. That was the ice storm for me, but an hour south of me in the city, people were on generators, no power, no water. He did a great job, so his leadership is not in doubt.
Yep.
And for all my conservative friends who cringe when they hear Diane Deans, people should go look at Diane Deans' voting record, and I did, and I have. It's very fiscally conservative on many, many issues. So who knows what will happen in 2022. It'll be interesting. But I did want to speak to the Dr. Etches interview, and I think a question that I hope you and others ask. We're now in the space where people, as you've touched on it with the Pierre Bourque, where people are ready for their second vaccines. They were going to get them in 3 weeks, then 5 weeks. Most people, and I'm a caregiver, there is a conflict of interest. I'm asking for myself and many others. We were pushed literally 16 weeks right to the maximum of the NACI guidance, and it's off-label. I don't believe it's safe, but that's what they've done. The question to ask for Tony DeMonte and Dr. Etches and people at the Ottawa Hospital, and with respectfully, is to say, what is the plan now as we're getting through this cycle of people who are coming into their 12, 14, 15, 16-week time frame for their second dose? How are we allocating that supply of Pfizer and Moderna? Are they going to use AstraZeneca in this mix and match buffet? Those are legitimate questions that were theoretical 2 months ago, 3 months now, and 15 and 16 weeks for some people. These are real questions that public health officials need to be transparent and answer. Will we have enough? Because there is a fear, and I've chatted with people who are in my boat. They're saying, what if 16 weeks becomes 17 or 18 or a supply disruption? Will people, if I need to travel, will my digital green pass and my vaccine passport be accepted by other countries if we've even pushed even further beyond product monographs? These are becoming real issues for people, and real questions need to be asked.
Thank you, Walter. Good to hear from you. Hope you're well.
Take care.
Hey, how's the fundraiser going?
45,000 and clicking along, braintumorwalk.ca.
Thank you, Walter.
Look up my name.
Good luck. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Walter Robinson. Rob Snow Show Talkback Hour. This is City News.
Number one for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, May 14th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now, 17 degrees in Ottawa, 19 degrees in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news this hour. Latest COVID-19 infection numbers in Ontario show 2,362 more cases today. 99 of those are in Ottawa. 18 new cases in the Eastern Ontario Health Unit, 2 in Renfrew. There are no new cases reported today by the province in Leeds, Grenville, Lanark. Results come from over 44,000 tests. The positivity rate slightly higher than yesterday, now at 6.1%. The province also says 26 more people have died. Doesn't appear any major in-person events will be happening this summer in Ottawa. Already major events like Blues Fest have been put off for another year, not to mention this weekend's Ottawa Race Weekend. But Dr. Vera Etches says as more people get vaccinated, they will be able to start opening up to smaller groups outside of your immediate family. Toronto has already cancelled all its major events planned through the end of August. The province says it is investing $35 million to increase the number of people admitted to nursing programs. Long-term care minister Mary Lee Fullerton says the money will be used to train 1,130 more practical nurses and additional 871 registered nurses. Investigators say this morning's shooting in the South End was targeted. One person found suffering a non-life-threatening gunshot wound in the area of Queensdale and Bank. The shooting happened in Emerald Woods around Bank and Hunt Club. Any witnesses are asked to contact Ottawa Police. City News Time, 10:32. I'm Andrew Boyle. For news anytime, follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
Talk back.
Hello. On the Rob Snow Show. The phone lines are open at 613-750-1310.
Now, the Rob Snow Show continues.
And it's a Friday free for all, so it's wide open on topics. You pick the topics, we don't pick the topics. Vaccines, vaccine rollout, hot topic all week, in the news all week. As the week comes to a close, I have to say I am envious of our American friends. Front page, New York Times website this morning, top story headlined, vaccinated Americans may go maskless. In most places, CDC says, and this is what the CDC spokesperson said yesterday.
Today, CDC is updating our guidance for fully vaccinated people. Anyone who is fully vaccinated can participate in indoor and outdoor activities, large or small, without wearing a mask or physical distancing. If you are fully vaccinated, you can start doing the things that you had stopped doing because of the pandemic.
Maskless. Maskless. Oh, to be maskless again. I'd trade that for a one-dose bummer summer.
One-dose summer.
Any day of the week.
Two-dose fall.
Oh, shut up. The UK, next phase of that country's reopening plan kicks in on Monday. And a lot of people are going to watch this with great interest because there is some fear that the Boris Johnson government might be moving too fast, might be playing with fire. All of this could backfire, blow up in his face. UK could look like India. Fingers crossed that doesn't happen. But on Monday in the UK, hugging will be allowed. Wouldn't you love the chance to hug someone you haven't hugged in more than a year? I'm not much of a hugger. Okay. But I could use a hug. David, come here and give me a hug.
Not yet.
Pubs, bars, restaurants will be able to serve patrons indoors. Travel restrictions are being relaxed. Vacations are being planned. Team sports are resuming. Live theater, movie theaters, museums are all reopening. 10,000 people in the stands for live sporting events. All because of a superior vaccination program than the one that we have been offered here in Canada. Here we have a one-dose summer.
One-dose summer.
Okay. 7-5. That's been on my mind all week, as I'm sure it's been on your mind as well. 750-1310 Friday free for all. Ottawa South. David. Good morning, David. Yes,
Rob,
sir.
Thanks again for taking my call.
Pleasure.
I didn't call in because you're always on the vaccine and the stuff, and I wanted to get on about the gas and stuff.
Line 5.
Well, we've seen what's happened now with that colonial line down in the U.S. that was held ransom.
Yeah.
we've got the potential of what's going to happen with Line 5 through Michigan and so on. It could take 2,000 trucks a day to replace what goes through that line, with oil being shipped on the Great Lakes in ships.
Yeah. If you could find 2,000 trucks.
Exactly.
Right?
I don't care what these greenies say, and I'm not taking a stand on the environment or greenhouse gases one way or the other on this, although you know where I stand.
Sure.
You can't just cut the supply. That's been proved already just now with the Colonial Pipeline. We're not. If they go ahead and cut the Line 5, you won't have any jet fuel to service Pearson Airport or the airports in Montreal, not to mention the gas that's used for our cars and our homes and for other things. We aren't ready to cut the cord yet, and anybody who thinks so is crazy.
Agreed, David.
And let's go to another thing. We lost our chance to be a little more self-sufficient and a little more in control of our own house when we missed the eastern extension of the pipeline. Thank you, Quebec. And thank you to all the people who practically rioted during the public meetings on that.
Yes. Yeah. Denny Coderre and the like, yeah.
You know, I'm just sick and tired of the whole thing. And now Quebec wants to open up the Constitution about language again. I'm just fed up with it all.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, David, in Ottawa South to, well, let's stick in the South End. It's hot down there. Mark in the South End. Go ahead, Mark.
Good morning, Rob.
Yes, sir.
I'm calling to respectfully disagree with something you said in your
Oh, really?
statement.
Okay, all right.
I think you seriously underestimate the significance of the expulsion of Liz Cheney.
All right.
If a president is able to keep himself in office after he's been voted out of office, then the country stops being a democracy. That is what Donald Trump tried to do after he lost the election in November of 2020 and especially in January of 2021. It's virtually treason. And of the 10 incumbent presidents who lost as they sought re-election before Donald Trump, from John Adams in 1800 to George H.W. Bush in 1992, none ever did that. And in order to have a vibrant democracy, you have to have at least two governing parties, both hopefully disagreeing on policy, but all understanding that the rules of the Constitution is higher than any of them. And when they lose power, they must transfer it.
Sure. But Mark, who cares? Who cares?
People don't care. That's
Donald
dangerous.
Trump is gone, sir. Donald Trump lost the election. Donald Trump is gone. Donald Trump's not on Twitter. Donald Trump's not on Facebook. Donald Trump is incognito, inconsequential.
In order to join the Republican Party and stay in
why are people so obsessed about regurgitating Donald Trump again?
He is the president.
Donald Trump is not the president. Joe Biden is the president.
But
Joe Biden occupies. Mark,
party,
you and I usually agree on all things, but Mark, Joe Biden is the president as Russia plots a way to thoroughly take over Ukraine. Okay, we have seen what has happened with China. It has betrayed the world on Hong Kong, and it's getting ready to do the same thing with Taiwan. And now look, 5 months into the Biden presidency, and look at what is happening in Israel today. Okay? Where is American leadership, Mark? Where is it?
Well, nobody's denying the significance of those events. But you see, you don't have one story to the exclusion of all others. And again, what this means is for the second governing party, in order to qualify, you have to lie about an event.
Well, see, I love this. This is another thing that we hear, that the Republicans in the American political system, it's only the Republicans who lie. Like the Republicans have a monopoly on being liars in American politics. Come on, Mark, give me a break.
But in terms of this central event, an attempt to end the American democracy, what do you think would have happened if the place occupied by Mike Pence had been occupied by Josh Hawley or Ted Cruz or Jim Jordan?
Sure. Okay. All right. I think it's all a sideshow. I think it's all a distraction. And I think it's symptomatic of an American political media that just can't get over its Trump obsession. to focus so much time and effort on Liz Cheney to the exclusion of everything else that is happening in the world. Joanne in Orleans. Good morning, Joanne.
Hallelujah. I am so glad you're shedding some light on that whole situation. It's not even the reason for my call, but I couldn't agree more. What a distraction when the whole world is burning. And you aside from COVID, all these other major events, foreign affairs events that Biden is absent on, including his own disaster at the border. Anyway, Liz Cheney has become a distraction just like Trump. The reason I called is because I've been thinking about this a long time. To me, the last time we had a real existential threat, which was terrorism, we looked at it, the United States, Canada, we looked at it from various perspectives. There was the immigration side. There was legislation that was going through, and it had to be in keeping with rights and responsibilities. There were time limits put on certain surveillance legislation. Security changed. A myriad of perspectives went into formulating how we were going to respond, including, of course, war, and was it a just war or not a just war. This existential threat, which is COVID, has only been looked at from one lens, and healthcare, and specifically in Ontario, from hospital capacity. And we know that is an atrophied system. It itself is on life support.
Sure.
As a result, we have these policy decisions that are frustrating people and bankrupting businesses and contributing to possibly a mental health crisis, not just in the youth, but in everybody. And it's coming to a head because the weather is beautiful and we're not allowed to congregate outside. Now, part of that, we have to admit, is because we don't have enough of our population that's vaccinated. That's a reality, and that's on Trudeau. But I also think this one-minded, single-minded focus on hospital capacity has been to the detriment of others. But whenever a leader has stood up and said, but we have to take care of business, and that's Kenny and that's Ford, they've been crucified, and they don't have the backing. Randall Denley explained it beautifully when he talked about, the threat was mobility, and so Ford said, okay, this is how we'll deal with mobility. We're going to close the borders. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And then he's left hung to dry. No one wants to stand with him and say, hey, we're the ones who rang the alarm bell, and he's just responding in policy. It's a sad situation we find ourselves in Ontario. It will be resolved by vaccines. I think people are angry, and rightly so, because being outside should be fine. And we're stuck with this single-minded, and people who are just banging the same drum, and that includes leader, Andrea Horwath. She is a tiresome woman. I know we're stuck with her for the next election, but my goodness, come up with something fresh, come up with a solution, because she was part of the problem. But anyway, I think Ford is in a conundrum. It is too bad that this is the only lens that he's looking at things through, because there are many other things out there that should be informing the decision.
Yeah, you think Ford's in trouble? I mean, look at Jason Kenney, right?
Mm-hmm.
If Jason Kenney doesn't shut down hard, he gets it from Rachel Notley and the progressives in Alberta. And when he does tighten things down, people in his own party want to take him out behind the barn and shoot him, for crying out loud. It's crazy what's going on in Alberta.
And I see Ford in the same boat, but you're right, I guess, with Kenny, his job is on the line. In a way, Ford doesn't really have an opposition. Oh my gosh, the Liberals cannot be voted in again. They have led to much of what is disastrous right now. Briefly, can I talk about Aaron O'Toole?
Yes. Sure.
I really believe that Canadian public, if this election is taking place in the next 5 months, we're going to have a very short attention span, and COVID is still going to be a reality. So his campaign should be very brief and be on 3 points. He's already taken up green energy and carbon tax to my chagrin, because I don't believe in global warming, man-made global warming, but he's done it. So there he is. He owns it. He has to campaign on it. But I think healthcare funding is another one.
Healthcare
where
funding?
He should say, I'm going to restore it to 30 or 35% if there's anything that...
A new deal for federalism on healthcare. We will spend money on healthcare. Mr. Trudeau won't.
Yes. That's
exactly.
easy, simple, quick. We understand it.
Absolutely.
And the other one is what you keep talking about, help for first-time home buyers. You keep it short, simple, to the point, where we live, right?
I would even broaden it even a little more than that, and I would say, why is it so expensive to live in Mr. Trudeau's world? The cost of living. The cost of living. I have to be a millionaire to own a house in the city.
You should be on his campaign team, on his communication team.
All right, one more. Give me one more. What was your other one? Yeah, 3 things.
Well, that was it. Help for first-time home buyers.
All right,
Two things. That's it. That's all we can handle in COVID.
Thank you, Joanne. Bye-bye. Okay, final quarter, Talk Back Hour, Rob Snow Show, City News.
An old-fashioned traditional grocery store. You're going to find a butcher, okay? You want a steak cut a certain way, you're going to get it. You know, there's flour piled in the warehouse. There's mixers on the floor. There's flour on the floor. The bakery's rented out to Frank Nicolo. It's him and his son come in at night. They mix the dough, they roll the dough, and they bake the dough. It's not the traditional frozen and thaw and put it in the bin, okay? It's made from scratch 7 days a week. It's probably the only bakery left in Ottawa that does that. You know, then customer service. You know, we're big on that. The cashiers, the deli. You're not, if you ask for something, they're not going to point. It's an aisle number 7. They're going to bring you there, okay? If you have too much groceries out, we'll take it out to your car. You know what I mean? There's nothing we don't do for our customers. And we evolved around our customers. They would come in and say, you know, can you try getting me this? You know, can you get me this? So that's how we built the lineup we have now, okay? So we have a lot of unique items that someone that came over to, you know, live in Canada hasn't seen this particular product, but we sourced it and we have it for them that, you know, like something they used to have as a kid. We have a lot of those unique items, a lot, you know, from like all over the world. And we source it through, you know, distributors in Montreal and Toronto that bring in the product in bulk, and we piggyback off of them. Probably the largest European deli in Ottawa. We sell lots because people buy lots. It's nothing really complicated about that. You know, we turn over a lot of product. You know, we package it properly. We buy, and we're always consistent. You know, you're always going to find, you know, Cuddy turkey breast, you know, San Daniel mortadella. You're always going to get the same brands. We don't flip back and forth to save 20 cents. It's always the same brands, the last 29 years. Best sandwiches in town. It's simple. It starts off with fresh bread every day baked in the store. Anything that's left over goes to breadcrumbs. So you're getting a fresh bun every day that was baked probably 4 hours before you get here, okay? Not only baked, made, like, you know, mix the flour, roll the dough, proof the bread, and bake the bread, okay? Then all the ingredients come right off the shelves. You know, your lettuce, your tomatoes, all your condiments, and they're cut up fresh in the deli. Not like the big, you know, corporate restaurant chains that your lettuce comes in shredded in a bag, you open it up and you throw it in the bin. You know, takes, you know, 2 or 3 days to get here from California. How long is it in the bag? The big difference is like making a sandwich at home and you don't have to do the work. It's really what the trick is, and using the freshest ingredients possible.
It's time to talk back
on the Rob Snow Show.
Have your say and call now.
613-750-1310.
Steve Warne is going to join us in about a half an hour's time. Sens Nation podcast. He's confirmed, right, Dave? Yeah, he's coming on today. Talk about the Sens. I see Ian Mendez of the Athletic, The Athletic, is reporting that the Sens have signed Artem Zub, the defenseman, to a 2-year contract extension, $2.5 million a year. So I like that guy. He's a pleasant surprise. I believe I called him a pleasant surprise on the back end for the Ottawa Senators. Steve Warne, he'll have all the details on that. Let's get back to the phone lines. It's the Friday Free for All Talkback Hour. In Cornwall, Ray. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning. So my comment is,
yes.
States are opening up and blah, 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 blah. So how are we going to know that they're all vaccinated? Could you throw that out?
You just did throw it out. Yeah.
I know you know the answer.
I don't. Well, do you want a vaccine passport?
That's right, yes. So maybe you could throw that out to people because that's exactly what it is. And second comment, which is a little funny.
Okay.
A colleague of mine said yesterday that, did you know that Justin Trudeau changed his last name?
To what?
To Shingles, because he doesn't care.
Okay.
There you go. Have a nice day, Rob.
Bye-bye. I don't even know if I get that. Paul in Canada. Paul.
Yeah, hi, Rob.
Hey, Paul.
I'm calling in today. Just I'm a bit confused about the COVID spreading and the COVID variants and some of the kind of advice we get from the top doctors, on infectious diseases and whatnot.
Yes.
And what I notice is they typically quote the numbers like of positive tests at the international airports as just kind of adding to whatever the case count is in Ontario. So they're typically a low percentage, right?
Well, the one number I see quite frequently on social media is about 2% or something. 2% of cases are from international travel or something.
Yeah, so you're talking numbers like, let's say we're 2,000 in a day in Ontario and Toronto gets 20 positive cases. That's 1% there, right? So, in your case, like the 2% would be 40.
Yeah.
You say, well, that's not much because it's just 2%.
Right.
But I guess my the other thing, too, is that kind of along those lines is when you hear Trudeau sort of be reluctant to cancel these flights and whatnot, I think part of the problem is the fact that these experts, like Theresa Tam, it's not just her, but and she speaks on behalf of that public health agency. But, I mean, a few days before they canceled the flight, she was asked about the international flights and, would that help to stop them? And she said, well, there's lots of the virus all over the world and variants popping up in different spots. And she said, well, we're just all in this together, right?
Yes.
Kind of like, well, what can we do, right?
What can we do? Yeah, we're powerless. We're powerless, in other words, right? Yeah.
And I guess she's right. Eventually it will spread. But what I think, too, is that when they did announce, have the news conference with Patty Hajdu, and Trudeau was nowhere to be seen at that one, where they announced the flights were stopped, the direct
from
flight.
India and Pakistan, yeah.
And which was about 2 weeks ago. She made a statement. She said that they were going to take the 30 days when these flights are canceled to work on better modeling of the variants. And my impression, Rob, that's the first time I ever heard. I was trying to make sense of this. What's going on? And I think my conclusion anyway, and I don't know, right, but I'm just trying to read between the lines, is we have no idea how the variants are contributing. And we have no way of modeling it. And when Trudeau's looking to Public Health Agency and Theresa Tam for advice, and when you get comments like that, it's no wonder there's no action at the international borders. I just think when we don't have that technical leadership, by the way, maybe it's more difficult to do than what it's easy to say, right? But I just think it ends up leaving it to the politics of, bickering between Doug Ford and Justin Trudeau, and we're going nowhere fast. But I would really like to see if they can get the modeling a little bit better,
okay.
and also have a bit more Canada-centric view, even if we're taking some action, like canceling flights, to buy us more time or anything like that. Just a little bit more of an attitude like that would be encouraging, I think, for people who are giving up their freedoms at home.
Absolutely. Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Yeah, well, I mean, that's what's frustrating to so many people, to see so much international travel happening, and even this crackdown, there are so many exceptions and exemptions, and yet people can't go see grandma down the street. Okay, that's what frustrates a lot of people. Irene in Ottawa. Good morning, Irene.
I'm calling again about the 2 doses of vaccines and that. Yeah. And why is it Nasty recommends the provinces wait to 4 months, but those in federal jurisdiction, like the military, the inmates in prison, Coast Guard, they and the Indigenous, they get theirs within the 3 to 4 week time frame.
Okay.
Now, is there a website or whatever that says, like, each province, this is how many we vaccinated?
Yes.
Where is the federal vaccination? Like, where's the numbers that are federally, and who got the single dose and who got the 2 doses?
Okay, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Sure. Where is that? That's all. I think the numbers are skewed, so that we don't know the whole truth. And another thing I'd like to throw out, with poor Bill Morneau, will they be setting up a GoFundMe?
Yes, GoFundMe for Bill Morneau and his spouse, the heiress to the McCain French fry fortune. Yes. Yeah, we're going to pass the hat for him. I have a tag day for Bill Morneau.
I know. What a joke. What a joke.
And we'll send the funds. We'll send the funds to the chalet in France, in the south of France.
And you know something else I'm going to throw out there too? Mark Arno going over there to the UK. Did he only go with one dose of vaccine? I find that hard to believe.
David says yes.
International traveling, really?
David says yes. Maybe he can get a second dose while he's over there.
Yeah, maybe Boris gave it to him.
That's right. Okay, thank you, Irene. Thank you.
Okay.
Take one more. We got to be very quick, though. A minute or less. Michelle, that's all I can give you is a minute or less, okay?
Send him victorious, happy and glorious, long to reign over us, God save the king. Unfortunately, for fun, the shutdown needed to be extended. And he could have, like your other caller said about the Pops comment, he could have left that out. Everybody doesn't drink beer. There's a lot of people who manage to play golf without beer or drugs. So there, I think he could have gone back to, we had COVID in the house. We were trying to figure out where we got it. And when the person who brought it into the home tested positive, it just so happened there was a number of people down on the market, so many so that Vera Etches mentioned it in her news conference then. And she also said, we think perhaps there's a possibility of it spreading outdoors. They'd gone down to support local business, local friends restaurant. Perhaps that's where it happened. We're not sure. But on the other hand, they played golf safely all last summer. I can tell you that they're really going to think twice about voting for Doug, even though it's such a ridiculous thing. I keep pounding it into them. It's golf. You'll get to play many more games. You'll forget about it. But they're very upset with Doug right now. So, and one quick last thing that somebody mentioned about the commission ethics commissioner. Isn't she tired of seeing Trudeau? Well, maybe not, because he's always changing his look. He's always growing his hair. He's dyeing the hair, changing the eyebrows, growing the beard. Maybe she's waiting for costume change. Half the doses, half the promises, half the man. Trudeau.
Thank you, Michelle. That's it for phone calls this week. Thanks, everybody. Friday free for all. Talkback hour, phone lines closed. Bruce McIntyre from the Eganville Leader has just filed for us here at City News an update on a very important criminal case that has now concluded in Renfrew County. We'll bring you the very latest on City News after the 11 o'clock.
is City News.
CIWW 1310 AM in Ottawa.
And CJET 1011 FM in Smiths Falls and the Valley. Number 1 for local news in Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 1011 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, May 14th. Good morning. I'm Andrew Boyle. Right now in Ottawa, 17 degrees, 19 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news in Ottawa and the Valley. Federal government set to update the country on COVID-19 efforts as a new study from the UK, a small one, suggests the move to delay second doses of Pfizer may actually increase your protection. Here's City News Parliament Hill reporter Cormac McSweeney.
A team of ministers and top health officials will be providing a national briefing today on the current COVID situation as well as vaccine deliveries. But no Prime Minister today. His office says he's tied up with other appointments. Now, this comes as a new British study finds waiting longer between Pfizer doses triggers a bigger immune response. In fact, 3.5 times higher if the second shot is 3 months later rather than the 3 weeks that's recommended by the drug maker. The research is from the University of Birmingham, and it involved 175 people over the age of 80. Now, in Canada, the National Advisory Committee on Immunization has already suggested up to 4 months between doses. Co-chair Dr. Shelley Deeks.
We considered principles of vaccine science and immunology, which show that a longer interval between the first and second dose generally results in better immune response after the second dose.
On AstraZeneca, the feds also say there will be enough supply of second doses for anyone who had their first AstraZeneca shot. Cormac McSweeney, Parliament Hill.
City News Time, 11:03. The latest COVID-19 infection numbers in Ontario show 2,362 more cases today than yesterday. 99 of these cases are in Ottawa, 18 more in the Eastern Ontario Health Unit. There are 2 additional cases in Renfrew, and the province says no more new cases in Leeds, Grenville, Lanark today. Results come from just over 44,000 tests, with a positive rate slightly higher than yesterday at 6.1%. The province says there were also 26 more deaths. Thanks to an efficient COVID-19 vaccine rollout program, Britain is saying goodbye to months of tough lockdown restrictions. Starting on Monday, things like restaurants, bars, museums can largely reopen in Britain. City News Time, 11:04. Number 7 highway still closed between Ashton Station and Dwyer Hill. That was due to a fatal single-vehicle collision around 6 this morning. Now your forecast with meteorologist Jill Taylor.
Gorgeous conditions for us that will extend through the weekend. Just a heads up for some scattered showers or thunderstorms for Saturday afternoon. Today's high near 23. Partly cloudy tonight near 9. And highs on the weekend could reach 24. For today, the high 23.
And right now in Ottawa, 17 degrees. It's 19 in Smiths Falls. Ottawa and the Valley's one-shot summer is looking like it will be fairly quiet. Toronto has already canceled plans for summer events and festivals. Our Jason White has reaction here.
Whatever events are allowed to go ahead this summer in Ottawa and the Valley, safe to say they'll be small.
I think it's fair to say we don't want to have 20,000 people in an indoor environment.
Ottawa's Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Vera Etches, tells the Rob Snow Show she and other health officials will closely watch what the numbers do as restrictions are slowly lifted. While this will only be a one-shot summer for most, we are not fully protected, she says, until we've had 2 doses of vaccine.
That's what we're looking for, is to extend that population coverage, and that will give us more options.
Toronto's announced it's canceling its summer events and festivals. No word either way yet in Ottawa. Jason White, City News.
And we're hearing this morning from Ottawa City Councillor Riley Brockington that a pop-up vaccine clinic in Carlington is being expanded to Carlton Heights and Rideau View today due to the amount of supply they have. Now, you must live in that area. You have to bring proof of address and be over the age of 18. This clinic is being held at the Arena at 971 Clyde. I'm Andrew Boyle for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
He's the opinionated Ottawa icon.
The Rob Snow Show returns
on Rogers TV and City News.
1011 FM and 1310 AM.
The trial of a former bartender accused following a 2017 crash that killed 2 Renfrew teens is over. And Bruce McIntyre of the Eganville leader has been following this case, the Ancina case, since day one. And he joins me this morning, and Bruce is also a contributor to City News Ottawa, and you can read his latest story on this very surprising move at ottawa.citynews.ca. Good morning, Bruce.
Good morning, Rob, on a Friday morning.
What happened?
Surprise. It was definitely, something was going on because I received an email from the law firm of Mr. Edelson and Mr. Piccini stating they were available for a comment after 2 p.m. The first thing I thought of, what did I do wrong? What did I say that they were mad at me? I thought it was my first thought running through my head. What did I do?
Okay.
And then in the afternoon, Mr. Richardson, the Crown
Attorney... This was yesterday, Bruce? This was yesterday?
Yes, yesterday. I'm sorry. Yes, yesterday at 2 o'clock, Mr. Richardson came on, first time ever during the trial. I knew, okay, they've either reached a plea bargain or something's happened. And he explained to the those watching that the Crown and the defense has come to a joint agreement to enter into a common law peace bond, which is not very common in these circumstances. And what that does, it neither assigns guilt or innocence to Ann Cenac and the charges laid against her, but what it does, it gives Justice Fraser the ability to stay the charges. So basically, it's over. She was charged with 4 counts in total, 2 of them serving alcohol causing death and 2 causing bodily harm. And she was looking at a minimum 10 years in prison if she was found guilty of one or all of the charges. Wow. And it stems from the 2017 collision where 4 Renfrew teens were drinking quite heavily at the bar that night and got in the car and drove home towards Renfrew, but never made it. Unfortunately, they crashed into a rock face near Burnstown. So it's been a long 3.5 years, and it has finally come to an end. And both parties were agreeable. The defense did not agree to the allegation of facts, but the terms of the bond they all agreed to.
Okay, so let's go through those. This is a peace bond, 10-year peace bond. So what are her terms? She'll have to follow certain conditions to abide by the bond. So
that's correct. There is a $25,000 non-refundable deposit, which she doesn't have to pay. It's a bond. If for some reason she doesn't meet the obligations on her end, then that $25,000 becomes into play, and also she can be charged again. So I think she's going to obey the bond rules, which are 300 hours of community service to be completed by May 31st, 2025. Of those, a certain amount have to be completed by 2022. Okay. She's not allowed to serve alcohol either as an employee or as a volunteer, nor is she allowed to enter into. She cannot operate a bar. She cannot operate a licensed establishment, either as a partner or as an employee. She has to report to the direct accountability officer, who is Leslie McDonald. She's based out of Killaloe. And what that is taking responsibility as an alternative form of justice resolution. Yeah. And it's used quite a bit up here in the county. And she has 5 days to contact Ms. McDonald or her designate. And then from there, they will work out the terms of her direct accountability, the terms and conditions thereof. And that is basically it in a nutshell, and keep her nose clean and stay out of trouble.
Okay, so you've had a chance to speak to both sides, right?
Yes.
Crown and defense.
Yes.
Give me the position of both sides here. What did they tell you, Bruce?
The Crown, my first question, Jeffrey Richardson, I know him quite well. I worked with him on a number of cases. He's the one that led the a case against Basil Barutsky. He was of the opinion, when they saw the footage that was used throughout the trial of Shooter's Bar and Grill, he went to 2 other Crown attorneys, not assistants, but Crown attorneys, and said, listen, here's my large piece of our evidence showing that the bar was not busy. There's only 4 other occupants, and they left shortly after they arrived. So she was responsible for 1 table only, nobody else, and she served a number of drinks. They were able to count the number of drinks that she served. And so they were confident going in that that would be a lot of part of their case. It's just the video footage and showing the serving of the drinks. When Ben Schoeneman, one of the survivors of the crash, was on the stand, the defense was cross-examining him, and throughout the cross-exam, they drew on records of the cell phone, and the defense was able to pinpoint down to the second what they were doing in the car with the cell phones. And it was shown that a second or 2 before the crash, that Brendan Hanneman, the driver of the car, his phone was alive and showing a Snapchat discussion. And Brendan was obviously distracted by that cell phone. Okay. And as well, he was doing 127 in an 80-kilometer zone. So those familiar with Calibre Road know it's a very, very windy, curvy road. And the combination of the distraction of the cell phone, the excessive speed, and the alcohol all played a part into the crash. And the Crown's case of her being solely responsible was not looking too good. As the defense pointed out to me, Tony Piccini, he explained to me that the threshold to call someone a criminal in the Canadian justice system is very high. And both the Crown and the defense, the Crown realized at that moment reaching guilt beyond a reasonable doubt would be a very high threshold to meet. So the two parties agreed to come to this agreement and just put it to bed, and just hopefully the families can move on.
Right. So that's the end of the criminal case, but there is a civil action though, right?
There is a civil action. Tony Piccini, the defense, explained that to me, that whereas in a civil suit, the threshold for finding of guilt is much lower than in a criminal case. And so the civil case is proceeding. It is launched by behalf of one of the families. He's unable to tell me who the plaintiffs are. And Mrs. Senac will have to face that. I don't know who the charge is against.
Okay.
The case, it could be against the bar, it could be against Senac, I don't know, and he's not obliged to give me that information. One thing that came out of the trial when I was speaking to the defense was I asked him, since it's off the record, but it's just, how did you go about cross-examining the two witnesses? I mean, the one, especially Ben Schumann, the man almost died. He's a kid. He almost died, and he came back literally from the dead, learned to walk, learned to talk, learned to use his arms and the hands again. I said, how did you feel going into cross-examining that 18-year-old, well, now a 20-year-old, 2-year-old young man? He said it was one of the most challenging cross-exams he's ever done in his career. I mean, he has a job to protect his client, to get to the truth, but at the same time, he's dealing with a young man who's gone through so much.
Yeah.
So he was amazed at the strength of this young man. He just hopes everyone can move forward through this.
Yeah. It really divided the community, this case, right? So,
it did. I mean, as soon as the charges were laid against Mrs. Senac, everybody, myself included, said, what? They're charging her? What about them? I mean, it was shown throughout the trial that the young men were, in fact, drinking before they arrived as shooters, and there were empties in the car at the crash site. Whether they drank or not at the crash site, we don't know. But that was my first gut reaction. What about them? And Jeffrey Richardson, the Crown, said, he used a quote from one of the parents of the victims. He said, you do your best as a parent to teach your kids right and wrong, and you just hope that they make that decision when the time comes not to get in the car. He said, these kids made the wrong decision. So it's really divided the community. Some of the parents' families just wanted it to end. Other victims' families wanted it to proceed. So it really did split the community. And a horrible lesson learned in our community.
Okay. Look, thank you for the update today, Bruce.
Not a problem,
Greatly
Rob.
appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. You enjoy the weekend.
Yeah. Bruce McIntyre. He's with the Eganville Leader, and he does work for us here at City News. His latest update, again, on that particular case at ottawa.citynews.ca. This is The Rob Snow Show.
Everyone's got their own little dreams. I want to write the next novel. I want to write a screenplay, which I still want to do. So owning my own business is something I've always in the back of your mind. Oh yeah, that'd be really cool to try and do. I end up lost my job that I had for 20 years, and I found myself with nothing. Trying to figure out, what am I going to do now? I'm mid-40s, and I got a lot of different experience, mainly in retail. So I figured, you know what? Let's try to give this a go. I didn't really have any money. I started up with the little website. We went with that, and then it's kind of just grown from there. I have such a passion for this. It's not even work for me. This is a hobby that I get to, thankfully make a living off of. When you walk in, you're going to be overwhelmed, I think. With all the amount of licensed product that we have. I only sell licensed product. I don't sell anything no name or anything. Everything is 100% officially licensed, depending on the franchise. So I like to support a lot of different franchises, a lot of pop culture. So I do have a little bit of music, vinyl, Star Trek, Star Wars, Marvel, DC, Doctor Who, Game of Thrones, you know, you name it, there's probably something around. Or if I don't have it, you let me know, and I'll do whatever I can to, you know, try and find it for you. I do some comic books. A lot of the interesting things that I do are items that you just don't find anywhere else. I probably have the best selection of pop culture cookbooks. So cookbooks from Walking Dead and Downton Abbey and Orange is the New Black, Hannibal, Marvel, Wonder Woman. I've got the best selection of Star Trek ships in the city. Well, actually, I've got the best selection in the country. I'm the only retailer in Canada that deals directly with the company Eagle Moss. I've got the best variety of Pop Funko figures within the city. I got the best prices, hands down. Even some of my action figures that I sell that are available at Walmart and Toys R Us, I'm cheaper than them, which is a lot of times you don't realize it. So even that small business can offer you a great value.
Strong voice.
Strong opinions.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News.
101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
In sports, that's it for the Ottawa Senators for this season. Going to be a long 5 months without Sens hockey. So let's look back, and then we'll look ahead to the offseason, some of the big projects ahead for the management with the help of Steve Warne of the Sens Nation podcast. Good morning, Steve. Welcome back.
Thank you, Rob. Good morning to you.
So, it's all said and done. It's all over. They couldn't overcome the big deficit that they accumulated early in the season. Very exciting down the stretch. Just ran at a racetrack. So, overall, what do you think of the season for the Ottawa Senators?
Well, certainly you have to be thrilled about the last month. And we've talked about it in previous conversations, Rob. The start was trash. We all know that. Might have been different if COVID wasn't a thing and we didn't have a Senator team that had 10 months off, no training camp games, exhibition games and such, limited time to work with, and half the roster being turned over. They got off to a poor start, but it eventually came around. Goaltending got good. They stabilized the back end, and just generally speaking, since the trade deadline, they've really been as good as anyone in hockey. It's disappointing because it feels like if it was an 82-game season, they might have had a shot. They might have had a shot to climb into the playoffs, and they certainly, I think we can all agree, they wouldn't have been an easy out for anybody.
Yeah, they would have been right there. They would have been right there, and they would have been hot going in. You know, unlike Winnipeg, which is in, but is not hot. So,
yeah.
right. So, look, I think there are better times ahead, and if this team gets good, it has the potential to be good for a long time because so many of the good players are so very, very young. But that being said, what are some of the projects for the general manager for the offseason? What does he have to do?
Well, he's got to sign a whole heap of guys. That's step one.
Okay.
And then there's also the angle of just trying to resist the temptation to go out and get that, that sexy pick, that veteran that he thinks can, quote unquote, put them over the top. We saw it back after the 2017 season. They go out and get Matt Duchene, and it just didn't work out. Everything just seemed to go sideways from there. Not to say it's all on Duchene. And then we saw at the start of this year, it looked like, this is the year. Kids are all right. We saw that motto last year.
Yep.
We thought the kids were going to be relied on this year, and then all of a sudden all these veterans get signed at the last second. We all kind of shrug our shoulders, and it turned out in most cases they didn't work out. And so now I think we're at a stage where the kids really feel like this is our team now.
Yeah.
And you could see that in the last month. This is our team. Brady Tkachuk is going to be the captain, and you can see it all kind of flow down from there. So Pierre Dorion, it's one of those things where, one of the biggest things on his to-do list is to not do something, and that is to muck with that and let this team now evolve and go with the youth movement. But certainly there's all kinds of signings, lots of RFAs in particular that need to be dealt with, and Brady Tkachuk is Exhibit A.
Yeah. Your friend of mine, Ian Mendez, he tweeted that Dorion has signed Zub. 2 years, $2.5 million per season. What do you think of that?
That's a steal.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah.
I think that's an absolute steal. Artem Zub, and it was shocking based on his body of work this season that he did not. We didn't think about much at the time, but he didn't make that team out of training camp. Are you kidding me? He was such a stabilizing force back there. He's never going to threaten to be a Norris Trophy candidate simply because he's just not a guy that's going to contribute offensively enough to ever be considered for that. But from a defensive perspective, such a stabilizing force this year, and I honestly thought he'd be north of $3 million. But that's a fantastic deal for Pierre Dorion and the Ottawa Senators.
Okay, so Tkachuk. So because he's a restricted free agent, could he still negotiate? I assume so. He could negotiate a long-term deal along the lines of a Chabot, right? Like 7 years, $1 gazillion or something like that.
Chabot is in. He just started his contract. It was the first year of an 8-year contract at $8 million a year.
Right.
So if I'm Brady Tkachuk's agent, that's my starting point.
That's your starting point. Okay.
Yep. And I think there's a chance that he could get more.
Wow. Okay. Batherson too, right? They have to sign him?
Oh, there's a whole mess of RFAs they've got to deal with. Yeah, Batherson is one of them. They have to deal with Philip Gustafson needs a new contract.
Right, okay. But Batherson's another key guy, though. I mean, he's like your top-line guy. So, you got to get that done, too. So he'll be busy. He's going to be busy, needless to say.
No doubt about it. He'll have a very busy off-season, but there's a lot of automatics in there. I mean, these are RFAs. And again, Brady Tkachuk is Exhibit A. If you're going to try and nickel and dime a guy like Brady Tkachuk, that's not going to sit well with the player. Might sign a bridge deal instead of the long-term deal that Chabot signed. But I think that just for the sake of the business, like, fans are going to burn the city down if Brady Tkachuk isn't taken care of.
Right.
He's not the captain on opening night.
That's right. They're going to sink Eugene Melnick's rented yacht. That's what they'll do.
Nice.
Okay, so Leafs Habs, Steve. Leafs Habs. Eh? I predict huge ratings. Gosh, the guys at Sportsnet, Hockey Night in Canada, they couldn't be happier right now, let me tell you, in the corner offices of Hockey Night in Canada to have the Leafs and the Habs in a playoff. First time since 1979. I looked up the rosters for 1978-79, the last time they played. Gosh, that was a golden era for the Habs. That team they won the Stanley Cup that year. The Leafs, not so much. A lot of recognizable names. Rick Vive was on that team. Tiger Williams was Tiger Williams? Yeah, the tough guy. That's his name, right? Tiger Williams,
Yep.
And Laurie Boschman was on that team, Steve, for that Leaf team as well. He was the first captain of the Senators, if I'm not mistaken, was he not? Laurie Boschman? Yeah.
He certainly is, and he's certainly one of my favorite guys from the Sens alumni, just a prince of a guy.
Yeah, nice guy. I met him for the first time last year, yeah.
Kind of defies the kind of hockey player he was. He was a nasty bit of business on the ice, but the nicest guy you'll ever meet off it.
Yeah, so it's hard to believe that this matchup hasn't happened since 1979, and nobody's given the Habs much of a chance. But you never know. I mean, if Carey Price shows up and Carey Price is Carey Price, anything could happen, right, Steve?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I look at everybody in the playoffs right now, those 16 teams. There's nobody where I say that team's got no shot. There's quite a bit of parity in the league right now, and certainly I don't dismiss the Habs. But if there was one team I would outright dismiss. If you forced me to say, okay, who's the worst team in the playoffs right now, I'd have to go with the Montreal Canadiens. I never say never, but I think it should be a relative walk in the park for the Toronto Maple Leafs. The only thing that could trip them up is that Jack Campbell isn't playoff ready. He's not a guy with a big body of work. He's taken a long time to get here. And he's, I think, going to be their starter throughout, come hell or high water. And because Toronto's addressed everything else, like their leadership, that was a problem last year. Well, they go ahead and get Thornton, they get Simmons, and now Nick Foligno, Jason Spetz is there. They've made improvements on the blue line. So the only real thing, and they've already got the wealth of scoring talent, the only thing that could trip them up is the goaltending. I'm not impressed with Freddie Anderson. He's coming off injury. and Jack Campbell is just a wild card.
Okay. What other series are you most interested in watching in the playoffs? What has intrigued you?
Well, I'm kind of bullish on the New York Islanders as being a bit of a wild card. I don't think people are giving them maybe their due. I was looking at one of the odds maker sites, and the Islanders are kind of in the bottom half as far as underdogs go. And I'm a big J.G. Pageau guy. That's another one that I'll look at because I feel like if I was ever going to put a couple of shekels on something, Rob, it might be the New York Islanders to win it all this year.
Wow.
And they get the Penguins. I think that's a fairly compelling matchup. And the one that gets us all started should be pretty good between the Capitals and Bruins, which starts tomorrow. And that one, they're already hating each other before they even drop the puck because of the Tom Wilson effect.
Right.
If you remember earlier in the year, Tom Wilson got like a 7-game suspension for almost taking Brandon Carlo's head off for the Bruins. So there's going to be some nastiness in that series, I think. So that'll be an interesting one, too.
Great stuff. Enjoy the Stanley Cup playoffs, and we'll talk to you next week, Steve Warne. Thank you again.
Thanks, Rob.
Yep. Steve Warne of the Sens Nation podcast. Well, this should be a hot one, I think, coming up right after the 11:30 news. We'll talk lockdowns and vaccine rollouts, the great game of golf, all of it, with our panel of MPPs coming up right after the 11:30 news. It's Queen's Park Week in Review. This is the Rob Snow Show on City News.
In Ottawa and the Valley. This is City News, now on 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
It's Friday, the 14th of May. Good morning. I'm Sarah Buck, and right now in Ottawa, another gorgeous day. Sunshine, 19 degrees, mainly sunny, and 20 in Smiths Falls. Here's what's making news this hour. Provincial health officials report 99 new cases of COVID-19 in Ottawa out of 2,362 new cases across the province. 26 more people in this province have died due to COVID-19. Elsewhere locally, the province reporting 18 new cases in Eastern Ontario, 2 in Renfrew County. Leeds Grenville Lanark Health Unit confirms 3 new cases, 2 in the past 24 hours. The health units update their numbers in the afternoon. Quebec is reporting 838 new cases of COVID-19 and 8 more people have died due to the virus. 2 of those deaths in the past 24 hours. There are 19 new cases in the Outaouais. Health officials in Quebec say hospitalizations are up and the number of patients in intensive care has decreased slightly. More family members are taking the stand today at a coroner's inquest into the death of an Indigenous woman last year subjected to insults as she lay dying in a hospital northeast of Montreal. 37-year-old Joyce Etches, an Atikamekw mother of 7, filmed herself at the Joliet, Quebec hospital last September as female staff were caught on a Facebook Live video insulting and mocking her. The video of her seeking help and being ridiculed circulated widely on social media and prompted widespread indignation across the country. Etchequan's brother, Stéphane, was the first on the stand today, describing seeing his sister's body restrained in hospital as inhuman and shocking. Etchequan died at hospital September 28th after being admitted with stomach pain. I'm Sarah Buchan for News Anytime. Follow up online at ottawa.citynews.ca.
The world is changing.
So keep up with Rob.
The Rob Snow Show returns on Rogers TV and City News, 101.1 FM and 1310 AM.
We have a lot of ground to cover this week with our MPPs. Welcome to Queen's Park Week in Review, everybody. John Fraser is a Liberal MPP. Ottawa South is his riding. Morning, John.
Good morning.
Yeah, David Piccini represents the riding of Northumberland-Peterborough South, and he's in Port Hope today, Progressive Conservative. David, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to hear from you. And Gilles Bisson is the New Democrat MPP for the riding of Timmins. Good morning, Gilles.
Good morning.
Okay, David Piccini, the stay-at-home order has been extended by 2 weeks. Why?
Well, thanks for the question. It's been extended because today we continue to see cases very high at about 134.9 cases per 100,000. We've seen ICU, while that is trending in the right direction, COVID-related critical illness in intensive care has decreased from 877 to 776. There still is, we need to see an increased reduction. So I know if you look to doctors like Dr. Bourque and others who are supporting the province's extension of the stay-at-home, we're very close. I don't want this to be a doom and gloom message. I want this to be a thank you for following public health guidelines. We're close. ICU is trending in the right direction. Case counts are trending in the right direction. And it just currently remain too high and well above the peak of wave 2. So with more people getting vaccinated, obviously more than 6 million, we're heading in the right direction. Just asking folks to remain diligent for a short while longer.
What do you think of the extension, Gilles Bisson?
Well, listen, I think the government put itself in a spot by not doing what they could have done throughout this pandemic. No paid leave, larger class sizes, all of the things that medical professionals were telling them to do, they didn't want to do. For a number of reasons. So the government's backed itself in a corner. So they're having to extend, and I understand why. But what is, I think, frustrating a lot of people is that some of the orders don't make a lot of sense. Okay. You will know that, for example, closure of golf courses and parks and, outdoor kind of things, people are left sort of wondering, well, okay, what's that all about? So you know that we have a motion, and name is Sarah Singh, coming next week to the House and on that issue. Okay. And hopefully the government is going to revise its approach. We understand that there's still measures that need to be taken, and we understand that and support that. But there's things that we could allow people to do that, quite frankly, are able to be done safe. I think the issue is if people are breaking the rules, because the Premier said the other day people are in parks without masks, well, then do enforcement. If people know there's a chance of being caught, they're more than likely not going to do it.
Okay, well, let's listen to the Premier on golf specifically here.
And I know, I talk to my buddies. I know what happens. They pick up another buddy, 2 or 3, they go out, go golf, and then there's nothing wrong with golfing. The problem is the mobility. Then after golf, they go back, they have a few pops. That's the problem. So that's the issue. And what we need, we're just asking people. I understand, believe me, the weather's nice. Everyone wants to get out. I'd love to get out golfing.
What's wrong with that explanation then, Gilles? What's wrong with that?
The bars are closed. Where are you going to go when you go golfing? I'm not a golfer, but if you go golfing somewhere in Ottawa or Timmins or wherever it might be, there's no bar to go to. So I think people are respectful. I think people do pay attention to the rules, but they want the rules to make some sense for them. And that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Rules don't make sense. Okay, John Fraser, what do you think of the extension of the lockdown?
Well, the extension of lockdown, look, it's the right thing to do. And I agree with Gilles. The government painted itself into a corner. That's why our lockdown is longer and harder by not taking the advice of the science table back in February on a number of occasions. And right now, people are frustrated. They're tired. They want to, they want to get outside. They want to see other people. They want to be active. And we have to do what we need to do to protect each other. We have to continue to do our best, to all the public health measures. We just have to get past the finish line. And hopefully that's June 2nd. I think we'll have to, the government will have to look at that 2 weeks from now to make sure we're trending in the right direction. It really looks like we will be. But on the golf piece, I think we need...
golf gets all the attention, John, but it's really all kinds of outdoor activities, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay.
Well, I think the thing is that...
Yeah, just a second, Dave.
Here, David, if I can finish. I think the thing is that we need science, not anecdotes. And not every golfer, and I've heard from a few people over the last 24 hours about the comment around going out and having a few pops. People are rightfully angry about that. I think if the government had taken the advice or had not misrepresented the advice they got from the science table and said, look, here's some of the things we can do safely. Let's plan this out. Let's do it over a period of time. We would have been able to do that. But we're so far in, and they're paralyzed that, and I got to be frank, I don't have confidence that they could be executed in a way that would make sense to people.
Okay, David. Go ahead, David.
If I could just address that.
Absolutely.
I think I appreciate, and I know friend John there, we don't always agree, but I agree with him and Gilles there with the finish line, and we've got to hunker down. We're very close. Just to address the golfing piece, and everyone says, I want to see the exact science. Well, here's what we do know. We know that our doctors have said reduce mobility. So the apparent obviously contradiction between stay at home, but except if maybe you're in Mississauga and want to drive to Port Hope Golf and Country Club, or, if you, not every ride.
How long a drive is that? How long a drive would that be?
It's an hour plus, but not every area has a golf course, right? So, again, I know, I understand what John's saying about anecdotes, but what I see is I got to represent my constituents. And when I get calls from golf course owners that it's like a who's who from hotspot communities in Toronto at Port Hope Golf and Country Club, that matters. And to the piece, when we talk about science, the contact tracing, and we all know, there's no disputing. Dr. Davila and many of our public health officers have said when case count goes above a certain amount, we cannot accurately contact trace. We just know that the spread is happening. And now that our public health units are also have added vaccines into the responsibilities with the mass vaccine efforts that we're leading right now, to accurately say we know exactly where every case let's be real, that's just not happening. And we know it because our medical officers of health have said it. So the Premier is right about that mobility piece. And I do expect that based on our trajectory, and I know it's difficult for folks, June 2nd, that will be addressed.
Okay, your colleagues have said, and I'm not going to put words, far be it from me, in John or Gilles' mouth. They don't want me speaking on behalf of the New Democrats and the Liberals. Believe you me.
Absolutely. You are a New Democrat.
Yeah, right. But they're saying, David, that it didn't have to be this way if you had made different decisions. So, on things like paid sick days and what have you. How do you respond to that?
Well, what I would say is I'm first going to say I'm not standing here and saying I'm perfect. Be skeptical of any politician that says they are. We no doubt will look back and say, could we have done this, that, and the other thing differently? Yes. Are there some things that the opposition have rightly told us to do that we either have done or have not? Absolutely, that's their role. I always welcome that, and I enjoy talking with Gilles and John regularly when I'm in the legislature. But what I would say is that we are grappling with a third wave that is in a global pandemic. The countries that have largely avoided that are countries that are, and there's not many, but in the United States, there's a different climate, but they also have vaccines. Same in the UK. We're getting there. And without question, I take responsibility for things we as a provincial government can do better. But if I think to where we're heading writ large, we're investing more healthcare professionals. Today, we're announcing 2,000 nurses. We have now, the first time in 20 years, we're expanding the number of nursing spots in the province of Ontario. I mean, that's huge. The first time in 20 years. New long-term care beds. So there's a lot of things we're doing that are positioning us well. We're getting vaccines, and I don't want this to be a negative piece. I mean, we have criticized the feds for lack of vaccine supply. That's a fact.
Yeah.
But they are doing a good job right now. In
deservedly so, David, and deservedly so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. One dose summer, the bummer summer, one dose summer.
I think we can get to two.
All right. Anybody else want in there?
Well, I just, listen, I think just to make the point again, the government in some countries made choices like Australia, New Zealand, and others. They hit it hard at the beginning. It was tough on their citizens. Whole entire cities were locked down, and you weren't allowed to leave your own home unless you went for groceries. And they got it behind them. And we didn't do the things that we have to do in Ontario. And the medical table has said, here's some things that you need to do in order to reduce the risk to spread the disease. We didn't do it, so we are. So the government has to wear that.
Australia a country, though, Gilles?
Australia is a country. The last time I looked at the map, yes.
All right, okay.
So you're comparing Ontario with a country.
All right, okay. John, did you have anything to add, or I can move along? There's lots of other things we can get into here, but...
yeah.
Okay.
It's just really important in this pandemic to be decisive and act quickly. And I think the government needs to do that, and they've had some challenges around doing that, and that's created the circumstances that we're in right now.
All right. John, you accused this week the Premier being in hiding, that he was in hiding.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Well, what, he was in the, he did attend question period. Yeah. I'm not sure how many times he attended question period this week. Once, twice, maybe once. And he did the news conference yesterday. Mm-hmm. So why would you say he was in hiding?
Well, look,
seems to be all over the news. Everything he does is all over the news, for crying out.
Yeah. Well, when things are going well, we see a lot of the Premier.
Yeah.
But when it gets tough and the questions are tough, we see less of them.
Yeah. And Justin Trudeau does the same thing, and so does Jim Watson.
There in good times and in bad. Yeah. And I'll just give you an example.
Right.
I asked him a really serious question this week. He was in question period. Serious question about, are you going to do what the Long-Term Care Commission asks? Are you going to report back to this legislature on what you've done on their findings, because they put a lot of work into it, next year and 3 years from now? It's a recommendation. Serious question. It's about all of us in there being accountable, because 3 years from now, he may not be the government. The Premier's answer was to make a joke. Right?
Okay.
That's his answer. I don't think that's what people expect. What they expect is a Premier to be there. And when he gets asked a serious question, to give a serious answer. And so, I just, look, it's just objectively, I mean, I'm not the only person to say that. I mean, and then we see in the reports in the news that the objective of the party is to protect the king.
Protect the king.
I'm more interested in protecting the people.
All right. Well, what do you say to that, David? Protect the king. Is that the strategy, or protecting the king?
Yeah, I mean, look, if
what does that make you? You're like a rook? Are you a rook or something?
Yeah,
a pawn, David.
Yeah, maybe probably a pawn. No, but if you look, I mean, look, I don't prescribe what John says based on what I read some journalist has said, or prescribing. Like, bottom line is, they're factually, if we look at and stack up the number of pressers throughout the 3 waves of COVID nationally, nobody can hold a candle to what the Premier's done. Now, there are some internal, external that have said, hey, that's a lot of being out in front. And I think there's nuance there. I mean, there's, you just simply, only in Ontario and only when talking about Doug Ford will we say, hey, Doug Ford asking a question at a press conference saying, hey, why aren't we seeing you out in public, from a Premier that's out in public answering the questions to the press? Like, it is a complete oxymoron. And, I think I would contrast that with what we've seen from other leaders worldwide, including our federal leader and across Canada. Any day of the week, he's been accessible. And I think it's also important for ministerial accountability that the ministers be accountable to and answer those questions on their own files. So,
I would just say, as somebody who's observed and commented on these kinds of things for the longest time, if there is a game of protect the king going on, Doug Ford isn't the first to play it. Okay, Mr. Trudeau and his his people, they do this all the time. Mr. Trudeau is never around when there is bad news to deliver. He was MIA when it came to explaining delays in vaccination deliveries. He left that up to General Fortin. That was his job, was to deliver bad news on the whole situation with sexual misconduct at the highest levels of the Canadian Armed Forces. Does Mr. Trudeau ever speak to that? He never speaks to that.
No.
That's Mr. Seja who speaks to that. And here in Ottawa, I can tell you, as someone who's covered civic politics for a long time in this city, this is a top complaint from city councillors, as Mayor Watson is never around for the bad news. But if there's a ribbon to cut, he'll be there. You just say when and where, okay? This is hardly unique. This is hardly unique, is my point, okay? All right, I didn't mean to take up your time, Gilles, if you wanted in there.
My quick point is this, is just take a look at the record. Look at premiers from the time that I've been there, from Ray all the way to Wynne. This guy's got the worst record when it comes to being in the House to answer questions, and when it comes to being available to the media, he's pretty abysmal.
Gilles.
He is abysmal. Take a look at the record.
Gilles,
go take a look at answers. See
how many days in a row? We used to call it the Daily Doug. It was called the Daily Doug for a reason, Gilles. The guy was on TV at 1 o'clock every day, for crying out loud. For how many days in a row?
But there is a responsibility to be answerable to Parliament and to the media, and Mr. Ford chooses when to do that in a way that, quite frankly, limits the ability of the members to be able to question him and limits the ability of the media. And you just have to read the articles. It's his own people that are leaking like a sieve that are saying, hey, listen, we got to protect the king. A lot of bad news here. We got to get the heat off of our premiers. So I understand the strategy, but don't try to say he's available.
All right, look, we have to stop here. We'll be right back. We'll be right back. Queen's Park Week in Review. Gilles Bisson, John Fraser, David Piccini. I'm Rob Snow on City News.
It's such a beautiful feel because it's all natural. I'm able to talk to a lot of people who are going through different journeys of health where they really don't know where to start, where to begin. And I'm happy and grateful to have all this knowledge where I can actually help them and guide them. So, of course, medications have a great place in our system, but even so do natural therapies, which have been around for centuries and centuries. Like, old time, ancient times, everything, herbs grew, everything was done with nature, all healing was done with nature. So I'm totally in love with all the elements with nature. In our beautiful village of Manotick, the Manotick Natural Market, you can find tremendous different things. So we have herbs, we have vitamins, we have natural body care, we do infrared sauna therapy, nutrition counseling, acupuncture, Bowen therapy, energy healing. So we're like a wellness hub along with being a full health food store. We are 1 year into pandemic since it started last year in March. It was a shock. Usually I see things coming, and I definitely did not see that coming. Golden Root is a product that I created 4 years ago, actually for my kids, just for immune system, overall health. And it just took off with certain friends of mine who had cancer or some severe issues, and they started finding that it was really helping them from different tests they had done with their doctor. And I knew I had something really special. So then I went through the proper procedure of being able to sell it. So it's actually, I'm not allowed to make it anymore in my house 4 years ago, and it is made in a Health Canada approved lab, and then it comes to me. And what Golden Root is a formulation of turmeric, ginger, lavender, oregano, and black pepper, all food grade, which is the most bioavailable turmeric in the market right now for pain, inflammation, digestion, immune system, concussion, liver health, and brain health. So, and it tastes like salad dressing. We do a lot of in-house, so we make our in-house concoctions of teas. You can come here, tell us what your health issues are, and we can blend it right there. And there's some that are already prepared beforehand for sleeping, for anxiety, for different things. And in that bar, we basically make cold brew teas and cold brew nitrogen coffee. And again, it's all local. Everything we do is local, and as many herbs we can find locally as well. If a client can't come out, we'll go out of our way to deliver it. And you're getting that personal touch when you come in. If you have an issue, we will listen. and help you. We're very, very active in the community, so we would like the same thing back for the community to come to.
Firm.
Fair.
Fun.
The Rob Snow Show returns
On Rogers TV and City News 101.1 FM.
and 1310 AM.
All right, we're back. Queen's Park Weekend Review Part 2. With Gilles Bisson, a Democrat from Timmins, John Fraser, Liberal from Ottawa South, David Piccini, Progressive Conservative, Northumberland-Peterborough South. I'd really like to get your take, gentlemen, on the Greyhound news, that Greyhound Canada's it's cutting all the routes. I don't know what would that mean, because do we not? Gilles, you would know better than anyone here on this panel, I guess. What happened to the bus service that was running to Northern Ontario? There was bus service and train service. What was that called? What was that called?
Well, Ontario Northland.
Ontario Northland. Do they still run a bus service, or?
It's still there.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
But the Greyhound system, there was closures last year in Northern Ontario, and luckily we were able to get some of the private operators to pick up some of the slack, and also ONTC, the Ontario Northland, started doing service out into northwestern Ontario, because it used to be just the northeast, so that has helped. And I think in this case, I think there's a couple of things that we have to look at here. First of all, clearly Greyhound is getting out of the bus business for financial reasons, and the other part of it is that the government deregulated the industry. So it used to be, in order to be able to have a license to operate. The Ontario
government did, right? The Ontario government did.
Yeah, the Ontario government. Yeah. There was a quid pro quo. If you wanted to have the right to be able to run a bus and, have a market to yourself, you had to guarantee you were going to do, X number of service. Well, that has been changed, and as a result, and I don't think it's just that, to be honest, but it's part of the problem. So now I think what we have to do as a province is say, okay, if the private sector is not going to provide the service, we need to take a look at GO, which is a provincial bus agency. We need to take a look at the trains where possible, and the ONTC, and we need to have a good intercity transport, so that we're able to actually provide the type of service that people need, because not everybody's got a car, and not everybody can get on a train because it may not exist there.
Well, I mean, John Fraser knows here in Ottawa, I mean, the Greyhound bus station was closed for a while. Now it's been sold, and it's going to be demolished, and there's going to be a big condo development there. So, John, what do you think about what's going on, John?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Like, it is, it's going to be really hard for a lot of people, especially communities, smaller and rural areas. And once we get through this pandemic, and there's more time for government, they're going to have to paint a long-term figure out a long-term solution, which may include GO, may include the train, may include private operators. But I think it's critical not just to be fair to people, so that it's affordable and accessible, but it's also, I think, good for our economy, and so it's a problem that governments, both provincially and federally, interprovincially, are going to need to tackle.
Okay. David, what do you think about the shuttering of Greyhound Canada? David?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry, David. Just on the shuttering of Greyhound Canada. Yeah.
I think it's disappointing, without question. I know this pandemic has brought significant challenges, and we're working with all of our travel partners. And I know, we've asked the federal government to work with us on this as well, as a transportation. It is national in scope, but I acknowledge this is provincial. This affects us provincially as well. I really hope that we're moving forward, I should say, with deregulating the intercommunity transportation sector and removing the market entry licensing regime, which will come into effect this summer. I would also say, after the previous government shut Northern Passenger Rail, we've committed in the budget to bringing that back. So whether it be two-way GO, whether it be LRT, whether it be expanded GO service and ridings like mine, this government and the historic agreement we did partnering with the feds for the Ontario line and the Premier's Transit Plan. We are a transit government, and we get the importance of it, and there's lots more to do.
Okay. What were you chuckling about
Well,
there?
like deregulation is not the answer. It's part of the problem. To say we're moving forward and this is a solution, it's not a solution.
Okay.
The problem with deregulation is when you have a deregulated market, only those areas that have got the traffic are going to get the service because that's where the money is. Everybody else is going to get the stick. And so that's why you need a regulated market so that you say, okay, you can have that run over there where you make money, but you have to have a quid pro quo of providing service where there may only be a break even somewhere else or where you lose a little bit of money. But overall, the company makes money and the public gets a service.
Yeah. Gilles right.
I dispute that.
So, okay. So you do see...
By the way, today's my birthday. You should...
Oh, happy birthday, Gilles.
Happy birthday to you.
Good. Another year older, another year wiser. John, so you see a role for some kind of, government subsidy to run bus service between municipalities, between regions?
Yeah, I think we have to look at where it makes sense with our existing assets, and whether we can make an investment for the public good.
Right.
And I agree with Gilles. I think that in the licensing regime, you have to get a benefit for yourself in the big picture before you award someone a license or a contract to do something. I think that's just good management of the public interest.
Right.
It's a fine balance, but I think you need to do that. You know, you say, well, look, if you want this, then we're going to need you to do this. That's just a natural kind of transaction. I think that anybody would do it just in your family life, and you're negotiating for something.
Can I just
very quickly, David. Yeah, very quickly.
I agree. I think we can find common ground, Gilles, John, and I on that. And happy birthday, Gilles. But what I would say is let's look at Innisfil. I think the only arguable lower tier that didn't lose money through the transit when they did an on-demand service. We've done that in my community. I've been encouraging Cobourg, for example, in my community, and I know they're doing that pilot. So rather than, and I think this is where it does get political, Gilles would look at this and say, hey, there is no problem that more taxpayer dollars can't fix. And I would dispute that and say,
this program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line